Chapter 1052. Of course, elder was just a title. In reality, the highest authority in the 9 tribes was the vassals other than the tribe leader. The so-called vassals were divided into external vassals and internal vassals. External vassals had their own territories. External vassals controlled the tribe's military power and resources. The power of internal and external vassals was about the same. Within a few hours, the 13 vassals of the Oceanic tribe had all gathered in the main hall. The moment they saw Yao Li, the 13 vassals were extremely excited. They immediately knelt down and shouted, "Greetings, young Li King!" All of their gazes were very passionate. However, when Yao Qi besieged Silvermoon City, most of the 13 vassals led the elites of the tribe and disguised themselves as Silvermoon tribe elites to participate in the battle. 1,000 years earlier, they had fought alongside Yao Li for decades. They called the monster tribe kings. Yao Li was Prince Li, and Yao Nu too was Prince Wrath. Therefore, this Yao Li was called Young Li King. As for Yao Nu too, he was originally called Young Wrath. Later, he joined Yindu and betrayed the alliance of the 3 tribes. Therefore, he was called a beggar. Of course, a few hundred years after the battle, Yao Nu too joined the alliance of the 3 tribes. Although Yao Li despised his character, they were still friends that grew up together. Once again, Yao Li accepted him to join the alliance, and accepted his marriage request. Therefore, there was the marriage between Yao Rao and Yao Li. However, a few hundred years later, Yao Nu too betrayed the alliance once again and joined Yindu, becoming an eternal ally. In the end, he even became Yao Qi's biggest supporter. In the past 1,000 years, Yao Nu too betrayed, allied, and betrayed. He was a two-faced man. However, it was precisely because of this that the Shadow Spear tribe, which had been a subordinate of the Oceanic Wondrous tribe at that time, had managed to become the strongest tribe in the Little Western Paradise. One couldn't help but admire his methods. Back to the main topic. When the vassals of the Oceanic tribe saw Yao Li, they were full of admiration and passion. They completely threw their true master, the Yaolong tribe leader, aside. The Yaolong tribe leader was not angry. He was smiling, but his eyes were filled with worry. Usually, these vassals didn't take him seriously, so he didn't care. In any case, these vassals were loyal to his family, and had ruled the sea monster race in an orderly manner. Yaolong did not have much desire for power. He just wanted to live a peaceful life. He was afraid of changes and even more afraid of war. However, most of the time, things didn't go as planned. "This is the Silver Dragon Judge of Mount Buzhou. Greet him." Yao Li pointed at Yang Dingtian. These vassals still looked at Yang Dingtian coldly, but because of Yao Li's order, they still saluted Yang Dingtian. After the ostentatious civilization attacked Little Western Paradise, the arts faction still held the High Priest Association in high esteem. After all, they represented the faith of the entire Little Western Paradise. But in the Martial Force faction, because the High Priest Association didn't do anything, they didn't care at all. Yao Li looked at the 13 vassals and said, "There's only one reason why I've gathered everyone here today. That is to get rid of Yindu's acting chairman, Yong Shi." He was very direct. However, the 13 vassals were even more direct than him. "Get rid of him. Get rid of that old thing. Get rid of him. Mobilize the army now and destroy Yindu. Inherit the will of the Monster King and unify the Little Western Paradise." The 13 vassals shouted. Yang Dingtian could see that almost all of the 13 vassals had injuries on their bodies and faces. They were all from the great battle that happened more than 1,000 years ago. At that time, because of the sudden death of the 3 kings, the unification of the Little Western Paradise had failed. These vassals were very unwilling. "Yes, destroy the Yindu, destroy the 7 great tribes, and let the young Li King become the 2nd emperor of the Little Western Paradise Empire." A one-eyed demon fox raised his large sword and slammed it into the ground with all his might. The hard and flat ground was smashed into pieces. The Yaolong Patriarch's face twitched in pain, but he didn't dare to say anything. He didn't expect Yao Li to change the topic to establishing the Little Western Paradise Empire just by talking about getting rid of Yongxi. The first emperor of the Little Western Paradise Empire they were talking about was obviously their invincible commander, the Monster King. Yao Li waved his hand and said, "All right, don't change the topic. This time, we are under the orders of the Silver Dragon Temple. Don't change the topic of the Little Western Paradise Empire." Then, Yao Li looked at Yang Dingtian and said, "Head judge, please." Yang Dingtian started the investigation and said, "The acting chairman of the Little Western Paradise has been possessed by the human Wentian. He will bring disaster to the Little Western Paradise. The Silver Dragon Temple sent me to bring Yongxi back to Mount Buzhou and identify his soul in front of the 9 major tribes." The 13 vassals were disappointed when they heard this. So, they weren't going to fight. They were just going to capture him. Then, what was the point of that? Yao Li said, "Yongxi won't let himself be captured. He will definitely do something desperate. So, from now on, the Oceanic tribe must prepare for war. If Yongxi dares to resist, we will immediately lead the army to attack Yingdu and capture Yongxi. Attack Yingdu and kill Yongxi!" The 13 vassals shouted. They took out their weapons and beat their chests with all their might. Yang Dingtian frowned when he saw this group of warmongers. "All right, get ready. I will go to the next tribe," Yao Li said. At this moment, the Yaolong patriarch hurried forward and said, "Son-in-law, let's have a feast before you leave. It's not easy for you to come here. It's urgent." "There's no need for a feast," Yao Li said without looking back. "Son-in-law, how is Nanan?" The Yaolong patriarch didn't get angry. He chased after Yao Li and asked about his daughter. "She's fine." "What's wrong?" Yao Li got on his winged mount and flew away. After leaving the Oceanic tribe, they flew in the sky. Yang Dingtian suddenly said, "Patriarch Yao Li, Ling Yu is doing well." Yao Li's face turned cold. He wasn't happy that Yang Dingtian was interfering with his family matters. Then, he relaxed and nodded. "I know. You don't have to worry about this." Yang Dingtian didn't get angry. He asked, "Where are we going next?" "The giant beings and the Skyfire tribe," Yao Li said. Yang Dingtian knew about these 2 tribes. Back then, Yao Li was against Yongxi's ruling path, and Yao Qi becoming the chairman. So, he established the Righteous and Order Alliance to prevent Little Western Paradise from going down the path of vanity and decay. At that time, the Righteous and Order Alliance consisted of the Silvermoon tribe, the Oceanic tribe, the Giant Beings, and the Skyfire tribe. There were also dozens of smaller tribes. However, when Yao Qi formed an alliance to attack the Silvermoon tribe, the Giant Beings and the Skyfire tribe betrayed the Righteous and Order Alliance at the last moment. Not only did they not help the Silvermoon tribe, but they also joined the alliance to attack the Silvermoon tribe. These 2 tribes had betrayed the Righteous and Order Alliance. How could they succeed? One day and one night later, Yao Li and Yang Dingtian arrived at the Skyfire tribe's imperial city. The Skyfire tribe was very far away from the Silvermoon tribe. Instead, it was very close to the Shadow Spear tribe. Back then, they formed an alliance with the Silvermoon tribe to attack the Silvermoon tribe. Yao knew 2 of the Shadow Spear tribe had never stopped devouring the Skyfire tribe. The name of the Skyfire tribe came from the never-extinguishing fire on the Skyfire mountain. The fire was a few thousand meters tall and hadn't been extinguished for thousands of years. Moreover, it would change into a different color every season. So, it was called the Skyfire. And this tribe was also called the Skyfire tribe. However, part of the Skyfire mountain was in the Shadow Spear tribe's territory. So, Yao knew 2 of the Shadow Spear tribe tried everything to take the Skyfire mountain and the Skyfire. So, there were constant conflicts between the 2 tribes. The Shadow Spear tribe was more powerful and had deeper connections in the Silver Capital. So, the Skyfire tribe was always at a disadvantage. No matter if it was Yongxi or Yao Qi, they were both allies of the Shadow Spear tribe. So, the Silver Palace had always been biased, causing the Skyfire tribe to be dissatisfied with Yongxi and Yao Qi. So, Yao Li felt that the success rate of persuading the Skyfire tribe was higher. In the Skyfire Palace, Yang Dingtian met the tribe leader of the Skyfire tribe, Yao Yen Tu. This person was about the same age as Yao Nu Tu. His father, the former tribe leader of the Skyfire tribe, was killed by Yao Nu I. Therefore, the relationship between the 9 great tribes was a complete mess. It was unknown how complicated it was. In order to prove his ownership of the Skyfire Mountain, this tribe leader had flames embroidered on his clothes. Even his hair was dyed red, as if he wanted to be covered in flames. Yao Li said directly, "Now Yongxi of the Silver Capital has been possessed by the human Wentian. The Silver Dragon Temple has sent a judge to capture him to prevent Yongxi from resisting. I've formed a new righteous alliance to get rid of Yongxi. Will the Skyfire tribe join me?" Yang Ditian realized that this Yao Li tribe leader was too direct. When he negotiated with others, he was straightforward. There were no pleasantries, nor was there any political euphemism. After hearing this, Yao Yen Tu's eyes lit up. Then, he shook his head and said, "Brother Li, I support you from the bottom of my heart. But I won't join you. Don't worry, I won't stand on Yongxi's side." Yao Li said angrily, "With the Silver Dragon Temple, what are you afraid of?" Yao Yen Tu shook his head and said, "The Silver Dragon Temple doesn't care. When we fight and they leave, we'll be the unlucky ones. Yao Nu is worried that he can't find a reason to annex me. If I join you, I'll be giving him something to use against me." Yang Dingtian said coldly, "Sir Yao Yen, there are no neutral parties in this conflict. You either support or oppose. If you don't support, then you're against." Yao Yan's expression changed, and he said, "The Silver Dragon Temple can't destroy me because of this, right?" Yang Dingtian said coldly, "What if this is Speaker Neru's will? Don't forget, the Skyfire tribe has always listened to Speaker Neru." Yao Yan's expression changed. "Speaker Neru? She's already passed away." Yang Dingtian took out a recording jade and handed it to him. An hour later, the Skyfire tribe also joined the Righteous Alliance to suppress Yongxi. Chapter 1053. The Skyfire tribe was once glorious. This was because Chairman Neru was from the Skyfire tribe back then. Hence, the Silver Capital was biased towards the Skyfire tribe in many matters. The Shadow Spear tribe, who was the enemy of the Skyfire tribe, was suppressed quite badly. Therefore, the Shadow Spear race had no choice but to kneel down and lick Yao Li's boots for the sake of the alliance. Otherwise, the Shadow Spear race would have no one to rely on. Later on, not long after Neru's term ended, news of her death spread. The Skyfire tribe lost their biggest backer. After a few hundred years, Yongxi became the new chairman and entered the Silver Palace. This was because Yongxi was Neru's student, and was likely to become her son-in-law. Hence, the Skyfire tribe felt that their good days were coming. Unexpectedly, Yongxi completely ignored Neru's old relationship with the Skyfire tribe and sided with the Shadow Spear tribe. At first, it was fine, but later on, he directly suppressed the Skyfire tribe. As for the Shadow Spear race's Demon's Wrath too, after receiving enough support from Yongxi, he began to join the Silver Capital's alliance. Together with Yongxi, they started a new civilization movement, leading the Western paradise from martial arts to art and ostentation. It was also at this time that Monster Wrath II once again shamelessly betrayed the alliance of the 3 races and threw himself into the embrace of Indu. The Skyfire tribe was enraged and joined the Silver Moon tribe's alliance of justice and order. However, the last time Yaoqi had attacked the Silver Moon clan and almost wiped them out, the Skyfire clan was terrified. Hence, even though they were full of hostility towards Yongxi, they did not dare to get involved in Yongxi's matters. Why was Neru's reflection jade able to change the Skyfire tribe's leader's mind? Was it because the Skyfire tribe's leader worshipped and supported Neru so much? That was not the case. It was because Neru was not dead. If Yongxi fell, Neru would become the new chairman without any resistance. At that time, the Skyfire tribe's good days would come. Hence, everything was for the sake of benefits. As a result, Yao Li had drafted an agreement to impeach Yongxi from stepping down. So far, 3 great tribes had already signed it: the Silvermoon tribe, the Oceanic tribe, and the Skyfire tribe. Next, the 4th target was the former member of the Righteous Alliance, the Giant Beings. The Giant Beings were one of the warlike races in the Little Western Paradise. At that time, when the king of the Demon tribe led the allied forces of the 3 tribes to suppress the other 6 tribes, the one who suffered the most was the Giant Spirit tribe. Moreover, the Giant Spirit clan's army was the absolute main force and cornerstone of the 6 clans' allied army that was resisting the Demon King. In the war more than 1,000 years ago, the Giant Spirit race had suffered countless casualties, and their vitality had been greatly damaged. Logically speaking, it should have a deep grudge against the Silvermoon clan and the Oceanic Wondrous tribe, so why would it join the Righteous Alliance? This had to involve Yang Dingtian's cheap father-in-law, Demon's Wrath II. This was a complete shit-stirrer, just like England in the 19th, 20th, and 21st centuries. Back then, when they were fighting against the combined forces of the Demon tribe's king, they were forced to retreat. However, if the Giant Beings had not risked their lives to block in front and suffered countless casualties, the 6 clans would have been exterminated long ago. At that time, there was a race called the Middle Spirit race, which was also one of the 9 clans. The Middle Spirit race and the Giant Beings were staunch allies. Just like the Silvermoon clan and the Oceanic Wondrous tribe. The Middle Spirit race was the absolute underling of the Giant Beings and obeyed all orders. Therefore, when the 6 clans were resisting the Demon tribe's king, the Middle Spirit race also gave their all and suffered countless casualties. The ratio of casualties was even greater than that of the Giant Beings. It could be said that the reason why the Demon tribe's king was unable to exterminate the 9 clans in a short period of time was because the Giant Beings and the Middle Spirit race were fighting desperately. These 2 clans were the saviors of the other 4 clans. In the end, after the Demon tribe's king and his right-hand men died, not only did he not make up for the losses of the Giant Beings and the Middle Spirit race, but they also took advantage of the weakness of the 2 clans to suppress and weaken them. This caused the 2 clans to become weaker and weaker. At the most exaggerated time, the Oceanic Wondrous tribe and the Silvermoon clan that started the war were fine, and the other clans went to blockade the Giant Beings. Who asked them to suffer so many casualties in the war? All the other clans went to take advantage of them. Although the Giant Beings were incomparably furious, they were helpless and could only lick their wounds in the dark. After Yongxi came to power, Indu teamed up with the Shadow Spear clan and the Golden Ah clan to do something unforgivable. That was, they used the excuse that the Middle Spirit race was too weak and did not have the qualifications to be part of the 9 clans. They should support the Moro clan, which was more powerful and had more territory, to be part of the 9 clans. The Giant Beings and the Middle Spirit race were about to explode from anger. Damn it, if it wasn't for the fact that I had to fight the Demon tribe's king to the death to save you, would I have become so weak? You, on the other hand, secretly preserved your forces during the war and coaxed us into sending ourselves to our deaths. After the war, you tried every possible way to annex us. In a few hundred years, the Middle Spirit race's territory had shrunk by half. Why was it shrunk by half? In the name of democracy, they allowed the small clans to become independent, and then join the Golden Ah clan or the Moro clan. Just like that, the Moro clan became a big clan from a small clan. After a few hundred years of independence, the Middle Spirit race became a small clan. Even though the Giant Beings tried every possible way to resist, they could not prevent the Middle Spirit race from being expelled from the 9 clans. Then, the Moro clan, the absolute vassal of the Shadow Spear clan and the Golden Ah clan, successfully entered the 9 clans. The Giant Beings could only vomit blood and shout about the unfairness of the heavens. Later, Yongxi started the new civilization movement, and Yao Li formed the Righteous Alliance to resist. The furious Giant Beings did not hesitate to join the Righteous Alliance, even though they had deep hatred for the Silvermoon clan and the Oceanic clan. But compared to the Shadow Spear clan, this hatred was nothing. At least the Silvermoon clan and the Shadow Spear clan fought fair and square on the battlefield. Yongxi and the Shadow Spear clan, on the other hand, conspired one after another. In short, when Yang Dingtian saw the history of the Little Western Paradise, he realized that in the last 1,000 years, his cheat father-in-law, Yao Wraith too, was the main character. He was a traitor. Who knew how many people he had tricked and betrayed? More importantly, every time he betrayed someone, he would bring great benefits. Now, he had become the most powerful person in the Little Western Paradise. The Golden Ah clan was his underlings, and the Moro clan was his vassal. The chairman, Yongxi, was his absolute ally. And if there were no accidents, the next chairman would be his daughter, Jia. Moreover, his grandson was a descendant of a demigod. He was the only demigod descendant in the Little Western Paradise. Yang Dingtian was shocked to find that if this continued, the 9 clans would become history in less than 500 years, and the Little Western Paradise Empire would be established. And the one who completed this great task was his cheat father-in-law, Yao Wraith too. The first hero of the Fox clan, the king of the demon tribe, could not do it, but the traitorous Yao Wraith too could. Therefore, Yang Dingtian had to face his cheat father-in-law again. Perhaps, he was even more ambitious and amazing than he had imagined. Yao Li brought Yang Dingtian and flew for a few thousand miles. They arrived at the last member of the Alliance of Justice and Order, the Giant Beings. Yang Dingtian knew why this clan was called the Giant Beings, and why this clan had been ostracized. It was because the people of the Giant Beings were ugly. That's right, the entire Fox clan was very beautiful when they transformed into human form. As for the Giant Beings, the degree of transformation was very low. They were more like half-humans. If they were only half-humans, it would be fine. But the key was that they did not look exactly like a fox clan. They looked more like an indescribable beast. Moreover, the people of the Giant Beings were very tall. Both men and women were more than 2 meters tall. No wonder they were called the Giant Beings. No wonder they were so good at fighting despite their small population. They became the mainstay of the resistance against the king of the demon tribe. When Yang Dingtian and Yao Li entered the Giant Beings, they were met with hostile gazes. Although the Giant Spirit clan was a demon fox clan, they seemed to be a type of demon fox clan. They were beast men of the demon fox clan. Although they were good at fighting, they had always been looked down upon by the Chinese fox clan. They had been at odds with each other for a long time. Therefore, no matter which clan they were from, they would be treated with hostility when they entered the Giant Beings. It was no wonder that Yongxi and Yao Ru II were able to seal off the Giant Beings and the Middle Beings. Some of the major clans had even set up laws to prevent their clansmen from interacting with the Giant Beings and the Middle Beings. They were worried that their barbaric bloodline would tarnish their nobility. Therefore, although the Silver Moon clan had started a war more than 1,000 years ago, they were still respected and feared even now. As for the Giant Beings, they had always been regarded as barbarians. In the palace of the Giant Beings, the Giant Beings' King Niaoju II did not hide his hatred for Yao Li II. Because his father had died in the hands of Yao Li II. What's the matter? Yaoju II sat on the throne and looked at Yang Dingtian with contempt. What kind of birds are these? Yao Li said coldly. This is the chief judge of the Silver Dragon Temple, the representative of the fallen Silver Dragon. Why aren't you coming to greet him? Bah! Demon Giant II spat a mouthful of saliva on the floor of the bright jade, appearing extremely vulgar. Although the people of the Giant Beings were very boorish, they were not to this extent. It was because they had always been looked down upon by others, so they might as well go all out and act even more thoroughly. Furthermore, the Giant Beings were the most disdainful towards the High Priest Association. They believed in power and felt that all those mystical things, such as meditation and research, were all liars and charlatans. Therefore, Yongxi's new civilization movement could not be carried out in the Giant Beings. Yao Li said, Ju, the acting chairman Yongxi has been possessed by the human Wentian. We want to get rid of him. I have established the Righteous Crusade Alliance. Join us, and we will destroy him. Speaking of Yongxi, the Giant Being's King Niaoju II gritted his teeth. He hated him so much that his roots hurt. This old hag's underhanded tricks came one after another. She had completely crippled his underlings. Therefore, the giant beings could not be happier if they could destroy him. However, Yao Ju II said coldly, "Why should I join your righteous crusade alliance?" Chapter 1054. Yao Li frowned. "Don't you hate Yongxi? Don't you want revenge?" Yao Ju Tu said, "I hate him and wish I could tear him to pieces." "But what does that have to do with joining your righteous alliance?" Yao Li said, "If you don't join the righteous alliance, you can wait for the next alliance council to expel your giant spirit clan from the 9 great clans." "He dares?" Yao Ju Tu roared angrily. Yao Li sneered. "Hasn't he always done that? What's there to not dare?" Yao Ju Tu said, "So what? I hate him, but I also look down on you. Go back to where you came from. It's best if you fight with Yongxi and Yao Nu until their brains bleed." Yang Dingtian understood the meaning behind his words. During the previous war, the giant being race was too proactive. As a result, they had suffered a huge loss. Once bitten, twice shy. Therefore, the giant spirit clan was no longer willing to stand out. Of course, he was also full of hatred for the 2 clans, so he really wanted both sides to fight to the death. It would be best if they perished together. Yang Dingtian frowned, then looked at Yao Ju Tu and said, "If you join the Righteous Alliance to suppress Yongxi, we will unilaterally remove the blockade on the giant spirit clan, especially the blockade of marriage." "No need," Yao Ju Tu shouted. "Our giant spirit clan is full of heroes and women. We look down on weaklings like you. We don't need to marry you." This person was really looked down on too much. Extreme inferiority led to extreme self-esteem. He was completely arrogant. It was not easy to deal with such a person. He was unmoved by force or persuasion. Yang Dingtian continued, "Yao Ju Tu, you have to think carefully. There is no neutrality in this battle. Either join the Righteous Alliance or rely on Yongxi. If you don't join, you are an enemy." Yao Ju Tu roared and suddenly stood up, saying sternly, "Then come and hit me! Come and hit me! Come and destroy the giant spirit clan! If we beg for mercy, we are raised by grandsons." Yang Dingtian was at his wits' end. Yao Li frowned and said, "Head judge, please leave with your subordinates. I will persuade him." Yang Dingtian couldn't help but be surprised. "Humph, it's useless even if the Heavenly Emperor comes to persuade him," said Yao Ju II. Yang Dingtian hesitated for a moment before leading the punishers out of the palace. Bang! The great hall's door slammed shut. At last glance, Yang Dingtian saw Yao Li roll up his sleeves and clench his fists. He knew what method Yao Li was going to use to persuade him. Since he wouldn't listen to his words, he would use his fists. Sure enough, a series of loud crackling sounds soon came from inside. Bang 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 bang. Pa 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 pa. Then, as if there was an earthquake, the ground under his feet kept shaking. In the end, the walls of the hall began to crack. Inside, it was as if it wasn't 2 demon foxes fighting, but 2 giant beasts fighting. The high-level warriors of the giant spirit clan outside were also not surprised. They had no intention of rushing in to help. Little Western Paradise was a very advanced civilization. Assassination was a very despicable act. Especially between 2 clan leaders, if they killed you openly on the battlefield, they wouldn't even say a word. Private duels were a common occurrence. Especially for the giant spirit clan, they would duel every few days. If they were lucky, the winner would be determined. If they were unlucky, the winner would be determined. If they died in a duel, it was very normal. It was useless to cry out for justice. At that moment, Yao Li and Yao Ju were fighting one-on-one inside. Neither of them were allowed to charge in. No matter who died later, they deserved it. Yao Li and Yao Ju II were both at the peak of cultivation in Little Western Paradise. Neither side was convinced by the other in terms of martial strength. In more than 1,000 years of war, both sides had fought countless times, but there was no clear winner or loser. For more than 1,000 years, Yao Ju II had talked a lot. Every day, he would say that he was the number one in Little Western Paradise. Killing Yao Li would be a piece of cake. Therefore, the duel between the two was very normal. Bang, 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 bang. The noise inside was even louder. It was completely deafening. The tremors on the ground made it hard for people to stand still. Inside, it was no longer like two prehistoric beasts fighting, but more like thousands of beasts fighting. The warriors outside even had pained expressions on their faces. Because, from inside the palace, waves of energy tore through the walls and penetrated out. It was like a knife, cutting people uncomfortably. Even Yang Dingtian had to use his celestial qi to resist. Whoosh! A stone pillar a few hundred meters away was cut in half by the energy. A few hundred meters away was torn in the middle. In short, everything within 1,000 meters of the palace was shattered. However, although the walls of the palace were cracked, they still stood there. Therefore, the situation inside could not be seen. This battle lasted for a full 15 minutes. Everything around the palace was destroyed. Finally, the terrible noise gradually died down. Finally, it was completely silent. Then, a series of footsteps was heard. Creak! The palace door was opened. "Head judge, please come in. We have finished talking," Yao Li said. Yang Dingtian walked in. The 2.5-meter-tall giant Yao Ju II was still sitting on his throne. The entire hall was already in a complete mess. The solid ground was crushed into pieces as if it had been crushed by a grinder. The entire palace was creaking as if it would collapse at any time. Yao Ju II had a straight face as if he did not have any injuries. Of course, Yao Li had no injuries on his body. He looked at Yang Dingtian and said, "All right, I will give face to the head judge and join the alliance of justice and order." When he opened his mouth, Yang Dingtian realized that 2 of his teeth had fallen out, and his mouth was full of blood. Yao Li went forward and took out the agreement. "Sign it!" When Yao Ju II picked up the pen, Yang Dingtian saw that his entire arm was shaking. Of course, it was not because he was nervous about signing, but because it hurt. Moreover, his giant hand was swollen. His fist was as big as a pig's head. Evidently, his fist had collided with Yao Li's fist earlier. Then he lost. That was because Yao Li's hands did not look the same. After trembling for a full 3 minutes, Yao Ju II finally signed his name on it. After signing these 4 words, his whole body was sweating profusely. Yao Li took back the agreement and said, "Tell your whole clan to prepare for war. If they don't obey, our army will directly attack Yindu. I don't need you to teach me how to do things," Yao Ju II said. Yao Ju II said, "Just my giant spirit clan's army can reach Yindu. You guys are just here to make up the numbers." His tone was still as arrogant as ever. However, 2 of his teeth had been knocked out, so it was inevitable that his words would leak. "Very well, then we will take our leave," Yao Li said coldly. Then, he, Yao Li, and the others rode on the winged mounts and left the giant beings. On the throne, Yao Ju II said loudly, "Hurry, hurry, hurry up and carry me down, carry me down." He had been beaten to the point that he could not get down from the throne. A few advanced warriors immediately rushed in and carried Yao Ju II out of the main hall. Not long after they carried him out. Rumble! The entire main hall collapsed and turned into a pile of ruins. "Damn it, that bastard Yao Li is too ruthless," Yao Ju II said angrily as he vomited blood. After leaving the giant spirit clan, they finally stopped at the top of a mountain. The 4 major clans of the Alliance of Justice and Order had all been roped in. However, if they wanted to impeach Yindu in the parliament, they needed another clan to join. However, these 5 clans were already Yindu's allies. Back then, Yindu had roped in these 5 clans and bullied the other 4 clans. He had also used these 5 clans to help the young Yao Qi become the chairman. The remaining 5 clans: Yingge, Jian'e, Mo Luo, Beifeng, and Tianshuo. The Beifeng clan was Yindu's hometown and his base. When Yindu was the chairman, this clan had benefited a lot. it was very difficult to rope them in. The Tianshu clan was the most ostentatious clan. They had been completely fooled by Indu and were the closest to Indu. Almost all the nobles in this clan had become artists. Therefore, it was very difficult to make this clan oppose Indu. Indu was their spiritual leader. This clan had a low status. However, in the past few hundred years, they had produced many artists and philosophers. They were popular among the people of Little Western Paradise. Therefore, opposing Indu was opposing themselves. As for the Amoluo clan, they were completely subordinate to the Inga clan. They had no autonomy. Yang Dingtian still needed to rope in another clan to join the alliance of justice and order. The Jine clan was very likely. Yao Qi was the adopted son of the Jine clan. He had been killed by Indu, and could be considered an enemy. As for the Inga clan, his chief father-in-law was an old fox. It was too difficult to negotiate with him. However, as long as there were enough benefits, he could betray anyone. Therefore, Yang Dingtian found it difficult to decide. Should he go to the Inga clan or the Jine clan for the fifth clan? Yang Dingtian asked. Sir Yaoli, we still need one more clan to kick Indu out. Should we go to the Inga clan or the Jine clan? Yaoli fell silent. The clan he hated the most was Yao Wrath II of the Inga clan. This person had already betrayed them twice. Each time, he had stabbed the Silver Moon clan in the heart. Each time, he had brought great benefits to the Inga clan. However, Yao Li had a will of steel. Everything he did was for the benefit of Little Western Paradise. He would not consider his own personal feelings. After a long consideration, Yao Li said, Let's go with the Inga clan. We have a better chance. Yang Dingtian said, If the Inga clan joins us, Yao Wrath II might cause trouble again. After killing Indu, he might reap great benefits from you. Yao Li said, Everything now must make way for Indu's death. Then he flew towards the Inga clan. As for Yang Dingtian, he quickly followed up. It seemed that Yang Dingtian would have to pay a visit to his father-in-law and negotiate with this old fox again. Chapter 1055. Amidst the darkness of the night, Yang Dingtian and Yao Li secretly entered the backyard of the Shadow Spear clan's palace. Although Yao Li and Yao Nu too had completely fallen out, they still had a secret channel to communicate with each other. Before coming here, Monster Fury 2 had cleared out everyone in the backyard and then closed his eyes to meditate. In the middle of the night, Yao Nu 2's confidant led Yao Li, Yang Dingtian, and the others into the backyard of the Shadow Spear clan's palace. This was Yang Dingtian's first visit to the Shadow Spear clan's palace after a few years. However, even though he was the so-called master of the Silent Clan, he had never been to the backyard because it was a forbidden place for Yao Nu 2 to meditate. After entering a spacious room, Yao Nu 2 slowly opened his eyes and asked, Brotherly, how many years has it been? You're finally willing to come and see me? He was the one who betrayed Yao Li before, but he was still confident when he said that. When he opened his eyes, he noticed that there was another person beside Yao Li. Upon closer inspection, it was the Silver Dragon Head Inquisitor. Yao Nu too could not help but be shocked. Others might not know much about the Silver Dragon Head Inquisitor, but he obviously did. After being stunned for a moment, he immediately stood up and bowed. Greetings, Silver Dragon Head Inquisitor. Speaking of which, when Yang Dingtian met the leaders of the other clans, the one who was most humble was Yao Nu too in front of him. After a few years, Yang Dingtian's appearance had changed a lot. Now Yang Dingtian's true appearance was that of a man in his 30s. However, the Demon Fury 2 in front of him did not change at all. He was still humble and courteous. When people came into contact with him, they would feel like they were bathing in the spring breeze. Not only was he a modest gentleman, but he was also an emperor who treated his men with respect. In short, no one would have thought that there was an extremely cunning and ruthless heart hidden in this body. After bowing, Yao Nu too said, May I ask what orders do you have for me, Head Inquisitor? Yang Dingtian stepped forward and said, The former acting chairman Yong Shi has been possessed by the human Wen Tian. He plotted to kill Chairman Yao Qi. The Silver Dragon Temple is here to capture you. We hope that you can cooperate with us. Once those words were spoken, Yao Nu Tu's expression changed drastically, and he immediately looked over at Yao Li. Following that, the entire room stopped moving. It was so quiet that even the sound of a pin dropping could be heard. After a long time, Demon Rage 2 said, "May I ask how I can cooperate?" Yang Dingtian said, "Once the Silver Dragon Temple issued the arrest order, Yongxi will definitely resist and mobilize their forces to cause a civil war in Little Western Paradise. Therefore, I hope to impeach Yongxi in the Alliance's parliament and take away his position as acting chairman. Then, we will capture them and bring them to the Silver Dragon's sacred palace to identify their true identities in front of the 9 great tribes." Demon Rage 2 fell silent once more. After that, he looked at Demon Li and said, "Brother Li, there are already 4 clans that have agreed. I am the most important 5th, right?" Demon Li 2 nodded and said, "I'm here to invite Sir Demon's Wrath to join the crusade against Yongxi." Immediately, Demon Fury 2 revealed a bitter smile. Betrayed and surrendered and then betrayed again. Was there going to be a 3rd time? After a long time, Demon Fury 2 said, "Then I want to ask, what will happen if I refuse?" Yang Dingtian said, "War. The Silver Dragon's sacred palace will ally with the 4 great tribes and wage war against Yongxi. Either you stand on the side of the Silver Dragon's sacred palace or Yongxi." Demon Fury 2 said, "Even if the 5 great tribes and Yin go to war, you might not be able to win." Yang Dingtian said, "Then we'll keep fighting." Monster Rage 2 slowly closed his eyes as if he was doing the most difficult thinking and struggling. After a full 15 minutes, Demon Fury 2 said, "Sorry, I choose to stand on the side of the winner." Yang Dingtian narrowed his eyes and said, "Do you think that the 4 great tribes and the Silver Dragon's sacred palace won't be able to win?" Demon Fury 2 nodded and said, "That's right, we can't win." Then, Demon Fury 2 closed his eyes again, indicating that he wanted to stop talking. Demon Fury frowned. He could use his fists to talk to the giant spirit tribe's patriarch. But he couldn't do that to Demon Fury 2 because he only talked about brains and not fists. People like Demon Fury 2 were the ones who were truly impervious to fire and water. Yang Dingtian thought for a while and waved his hand. "Sir Demon Fury, please let me talk to Sir Demon Fury in private for a while." Demon Fury looked at Yang Dingtian for a while and then left. The 8 Punishers also left together with him. Mr. Yao knew Inu's influence might be very strong, but in this world, the strongest martial Dao force is still the Silver Dragon Temple. "I believe you know this," Yang Dingtian said. "Once the battle starts, you will lose." Demon Fury 2 said, "Sir Judge, I'm very clear about the strength of the Silver Dragon's sacred palace. But I also know that the members of the High Priest Association are very lazy. They won't mobilize all of their members just to interfere with the internal affairs of the Little Western Paradise. At most, they will mobilize the Punishers of the border castles." Yang Dingtian said, "No, you are wrong. Although we are very lazy, we are also very sensitive. In particular, we are very dissatisfied with Yongxi hiding the fact that he is a demigod's descendant. This dissatisfaction has even spread to you." Demon Fury 2 didn't pay much attention to Yang Dingtian's words. Yang Dingtian continued, "I find it hard to understand. If Sir Demon Fury joins the Righteous Alliance, you can easily win. But if you join Yongxi's side, you might not lose, but at least both sides will suffer, or even perish together. In terms of benefits, it is better to join the Righteous Alliance." Demon Fury 2 shook his head. "You can't say that. This Righteous Alliance is led by Demon Fury's Silvermoon clan. And there is also my Shadow Spear's archenemy, the Skyfire clan. So, I will lose out if I join. At least, it will be much less than what I can gain if I join hands with Yongxi." Yang Dingtian couldn't help but laugh. "What benefits do you have if you join hands with Yongxi?" Demon Fury 2 said, "The next chairman is very likely to be my daughter Jia." Yang Dingtian said, "That is hard to say. Yongxi has already been possessed by Wentian. He will use Little Western Paradise to fight against the God of Chaos. so it is hard to say if Little Western Paradise will exist 200 years later. Demon Fury 2 just smiled faintly and ignored it. For someone like him, he wouldn't let go until there were benefits to be gained. It was impossible to persuade him with words. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and said, "If you join hands with Yongxi, you can also get what you can from the Silver Dragon Temple." "Ha ha!" Demon Fury 2 said, "I don't believe that the Silver Dragon Temple will let my daughter become the next chairman. I remember that the Silver Dragon Temple can't interfere with the internal affairs of Little Western Paradise." Yang Dingtian said, "That's true. But after Yongxi steps down, the acting chairman will be Madame Neru." Suddenly, Demon Fury 2's eyes lit up. Then he said, "Isn't Madame Neru already dead?" "Of course not," Yang Dingtian said. "She is just meditating in the Silver Dragon Temple. As long as the temple needs her, she can become the acting chairman at any time. Sir Demon Fury, there shouldn't be a problem for Madame Neru to become the acting chairman, right?" Demon Fury 2 said, "Not only will there be no problem, but she will also be supported by the 9 tribes." This was true. Yao Qi had enemies, and Yongxi also had enemies from the 4 tribes. Neru, on the other hand, was supported by almost all the tribes. Yang Dingtian said, "Madame Jia is only Yongxi's secretary and assistant now. She is not the assistant chairman yet, because Yongxi doesn't dare to do that. If Madame Neru becomes the acting chairman, she can immediately make Madame Jia the assistant chairman. After all, she is also a woman. It is normal for her to need a female assistant, and Madame Jia is the most suitable one." Demon Fury 2's breathing suddenly became rapid. Then he said, "Although you are the chief judge, you have no proof." Yang Dingtian immediately took out an Echo Jade and handed it to Demon Fury 2. Demon Fury 2 took it and inserted his chi. Then, on the screen, he saw the devastatingly beautiful Madame Neru. She used the unique language of the Fox tribe to tell Demon Fury 2 that if Demon Fury was willing to cooperate, she would be very happy for Jia to become her assistant chairman. Although the Echo Jade couldn't hear her voice, it could be seen clearly from the shape of her mouth. Suddenly, Demon Fury 2's heart surged. Obviously, she was greatly moved. After a long time, Demon Fury 2's breathing calmed down again. He said, "I have betrayed Yao Li many times. If I betray Yongxi this time, there will be no place for me in the entire Little Western Paradise. I can't bear the price of this rebellion. My reputation will be greatly subverted." Yang Dingtian said slowly, "No, Your Excellency Demon Fury, you have never betrayed us." As soon as he said this, Demon Fury 2 couldn't help but tremble. Everyone was afraid of him, and everyone laughed at his cunning and double-dealing. Even if Yongxi cooperated with him, he still regarded him as a poisonous snake. Therefore, when Yongxi abdicated, it was hard to say whether Jia could smoothly become the chairman. Since Yongxi could trick Yao Qi, then it was no big deal to trick Jia. Yang Dingtian said, "All the decisions you made were for the sake of the Shadow Spear clan. It was also your actions that made the Shadow Spear clan rise from a small clan to the number 1 clan today. I know that making Jia the chairman is far from your focus. Your goal is to unify the entire Little Western Paradise, eliminate the 9 major clans, and establish the Little Western Paradise Empire. And your grandson, the descendant of a demigod, is your biggest strategic source." As soon as he said this, Demon Fury 2's expression changed completely. The deepest secret in his heart was completely exposed. This kind of naked feeling was something he had never experienced before. Demon Fury 2 immediately held his breath and said with a trembling voice, "Then, what is the Silver Dragon Temple's attitude?" Yang Dingtian stared into Demon Fury 2's eyes and said word by word, "The world that has been divided for a long time must be united. But the temple has a condition. Your grandson, the descendant of a demigod, must enter the temple after the age of 20 and accept our teachings." Suddenly, Demon Fury 2's whole body trembled. Chapter 1056. Yang Dingtian nodded. "Of course." Then, Yang Dingtian suddenly changed the topic. "But," Instantly, the expression of Demon Rage 2 trembled. Many things went wrong because of the but. Yang Dingtian said. The Silver Dragon Temple won't interfere with the internal affairs of the Little Western Paradise. The only thing we can do now is to let Madame Nera help Miss Gia become the new chairman and teach the future emperor of the Silver Dragon Empire, who is your demigod grandson. Don't expect us to do anything else. We still need you to do it. Hearing this, Demon Rage 2 immediately thought of a few things. There were a few meanings in the Silver Dragon Temple judge's words. The first was that after the Little Western Paradise was unified, it wouldn't be called the Little Western Paradise Empire, but the Silver Dragon Empire. The second meaning was that the future Silver Dragon Temple, which was also the High Priest Association, didn't want to just have an empty title of transcendence. They wanted to have a supreme status in the Silver Dragon Empire and become the religion of the empire. Although he despised the Silver Dragon Temple's greed, he was more excited. What was the biggest obstacle to destroying the 9 tribes and unifying the Little Western Paradise? It wasn't military power, but righteousness and fame. The king of the monster tribe was an invincible war god, but so what? Monster Wrath 2 felt that even if the monster tribe could destroy the other 6 tribes and unify the Little Western Paradise, it would be difficult for them to do so. This was because the parliament system of the 9 tribes was deeply rooted in the people's hearts. As long as the people's hearts weren't united, it would be useless to forcefully unify the 9 tribes. Everyone still saw themselves as part of the Shadow Spear tribe, the Silver Moon tribe, and so on. Everyone still had the 9 tribes in their hearts. Therefore, the ambitious Demon's Wrath 2 took a completely different path. The most difficult part of this path was fame. What name should he use to unify the 9 tribes and unify the Little Western Paradise Empire? The Silver Dragon Temple, of course, provided the best opportunity. The Silver Dragon Temple represented the fallen Silver Dragons, the highest belief of the Monster Fox tribe. Of course, the current Silver Dragon Temple was far from enough. In the future, if he wanted the Silver Dragon Temple to give him enough weight to unify the world, he would have to make the Silver Dragon Temple even more powerful. However, this degree was not easy to grasp. If the Silver Dragon Temple became too strong, then the Shadow Spear race would lose the initiative, and it would be easy for them to bully their masters. Of course, there was one way to solve this problem, and that was to let his own power enter the Silver Dragon Temple. And this candidate was none other than his demigod grandson. He would become the student of all the priests in the Silver Dragon Temple, and could represent the will of the Silver Dragon Temple. The impressive Demon Rage 2 immediately thought of countless possibilities at the first instant. Now what do you think, Your Excellency Yao Nu? Yang Ditian asked slowly. Demon Rage 2 said. Silver Dragon Temple, are you willing to sign the new agreement? Yang Dingtian. We are willing to sign 2 agreements. The first one is signed by Madame Nera personally, making Miss Gia her assistant. The second one is signed by the Silver Dragon Temple. We are willing to accept your grandson, the demigod descendant, as the first successor of the Silver Dragon Temple and the disciple of all the priests. Demon Rage II's eyes narrowed. Signing these 2 agreements was enough. One had to know that the rest was something that would happen a few hundred years later, and it was something that could not be said. Demon Rage II reached out his hand and said, Then, let's have a happy cooperation. Happy cooperation, Yang Dingtian said. Your Excellency Demon Rage, you can come in now. Soon, Demon Rage came in and took out the agreement of the Righteous Alliance to attack Yongxi. This time, Monster Fury 2 decisively signed his name on it. And his closest ally, who had worked with him for a few hundred years, was betrayed by him. Demon Rage II betrayed him again. It could be said that as long as the price was right, Demon Rage II could betray anyone. Everything had been settled. The 5 tribes signed this agreement, and Yongxi was destined to step down. If it was under normal circumstances, even if the 5 tribes objected, the agreement would not be passed, and it would be very difficult to oust him. But with the endorsement of the Silver Dragon Temple, it was related to the safety of Little Western Paradise. Then, the arrest warrant of the High Priest Association, which was like a piece of scrap paper, would become invaluable. It would become a shining authority that could take away the position and life of the Little Western Paradise's chairman. Therefore, Demon Rage II's understanding was not wrong. The Silver Dragon Temple was a righteous name. To put it bluntly, it was equivalent to the official seal of Earth. Yang Dingtian said, "In order to avoid trouble, when can we open the joint meeting to impeach Yongxi?" Demon Rage II said, 5 days later. Yang Dingtian was stunned. So soon? The joint meeting was not held every 2 or 3 days. Basically, it would be amazing if it was held once every few months. It was possible to hold it temporarily, but it needed a topic with enough weight to be approved by the Silver Palace's chairman. Of course, it could also be proposed by more than 5 tribe leaders. They could provide a major topic and hold the joint meeting. Now, there would be a regular joint meeting in 5 days. It was really fast. It couldn't be so coincidental. Demon Rage II said. It's an old topic. It has been voted on no less than 5 times, and none of them passed. 5 days later, it's just another routine vote. The 9 tribe leaders basically won't go. But there's a big matter, so they can participate in this vote. Yang Dingtian said. What old topic was rejected 5 times? Demon Rage II said. It's about the world crisis of Little Western Paradise. Should we enter the human countries in advance and occupy a region to prepare for the changes in the Little Western Paradise's environment? Yang Dingtian's heart trembled. Obviously, this topic was proposed by Yongxi. There was only one goal, which was to let a large number of experts enter the human countries and destroy the Council of Light. Also, Little Western Paradise and the evil ways would form an alliance. However, why hasn't this topic been passed yet? Demon Rage II said. This topic has never been approved by more than half of the people. Because the Moro tribe and I have abstained every time. Yang Dingtian said. Oh, why did you abstain? Demon Rage II said. Because Yang Dingtian of the human countries can be considered my son-in-law. Before I completely understand the pros and cons, I won't unify. So that's why. Demon Rage II's style was to not act until he saw the hair. If there were enough benefits, Demon Rage II would have sold him out long ago. Yang Dingtian said. Good. In the joint meeting in 5 days, impeach Yongxi. Then my punishers will capture him and bring him back to Mount Buzhou. Yes. Demon Rage II and Demon Li said in unison. In the following time, Demon Li returned to the Silver Moon tribe and started to prepare for war. Although the 5 tribes impeached Yongxi, he was basically done for. But just in case, he still had to be prepared for war. Yang Dingtian and the 8 punishers were still in the Shadow Spear tribe's palace, in the forbidden area in Demon Rage II's backyard. It could be considered as half surveillance for Demon Rage II. Demon Rage II seemed to know this, so he came to visit Yang Dingtian almost every day and stayed for more than 4 hours each time. His attitude became more and more respectful each time. The topics they talked about also became more and more in-depth. In the end, the two talked about how the Silver Dragon Empire was established. After the empire was established, how would the imperial power and the divine power be distributed? If it wasn't for the fact that the empire was still far away, Demon Rage II would have started to negotiate with the Silver Dragon Temple and written down the terms one by one. But there was one thing that both sides were completely sure of. Once they got rid of Yongxi and Nera took over, they would spread the sacred status of the Silver Dragon Temple. After 100 years of brainwashing, they would make the Silver Dragon Temple the belief and totem of all the tribes in the Little Western Paradise. They would lay the foundation for the future unification. So, the two talked longer and longer. Demon Rage II and Yang Dingtian spent more and more time together. Thousands of miles away, in the Silver Palace. Yongxi was busy writing and handling countless government affairs. Recently, the biggest thing he was worried about was how to get the parliament to allow the Little Western Paradise to enter the human countries. Although the door to the human countries hadn't opened, Yongxi knew that the evil ways would enter the Little Western Paradise through another method in a month or so. Dongli had the void crack fire. And only he and the Devil Queen knew that the void crack connected the Little Western Paradise and the Dark Realm. So, he didn't have much time left. Within a month, he had to get the Little Western Paradise to enter the human countries. Currently, the biggest obstacle was Demon Rage II, this cunning and greedy person. He didn't know what price he had to pay to let him pass. Of course, even if the parliament didn't pass, it didn't matter. Yongxi would use the martial power in his hands to enter the Little Western Paradise. Although he couldn't gather the power of the entire Little Western Paradise, the power in his hands was already very strong. Destroying Yang Dingtian's Council of Light would be as easy as blowing off dust. Of course, he didn't know what had happened in the human countries. But he knew that the evil ways definitely hadn't destroyed Yang Dingtian because the door to the human countries hadn't been opened yet. Yongxi was very confused about this point. It had been so long, and the world-ending war should have ended long ago. Yang Dingtian should have been finished long ago. What had happened? Why hadn't the door to the human countries opened yet? However, Yongxi didn't really care about this matter. Once the experts of the Little Western Paradise entered the human countries, everything would be settled. At that time, the only one who would be embarrassed would be the person on the dark throne. At this moment, an enchanting fragrance suddenly wafted in the hall. Then, the enchanting and beautiful Jia leisurely walked in. "Sir Speaker, this is something that my father gave you. It's very important and urgent." "Jia, hand the item over." Chapter 1057. Yongxi Wentian wasn't in a hurry to see what monster's Wrath 2 gave him. Instead, he smiled kindly at Jia and asked, "Is the child asleep?" "Yes, he is," Jia replied. The Jia from before was straightforward in her beauty and elegance. After giving birth to the child, Jia was slightly more plump than before. Her curves were even more voluptuous. Although she was still very young, she exuded an extremely attractive mature charm, like a ripe peach. In short, the previous Jia was just dazzling. But now, not only was Jia beautiful, but she also exuded an alluring aura that could captivate one's soul and make one's heart itch unbearably. In the past few years, Yongxi had been very diligent in fulfilling the agreement with Monster's Wrath 2. Not only did he treat Jia as an assistant, he also treated her as a disciple. Recently, he had even handed over some of the more important matters to Jia to handle. Therefore, he had to do his best to nurture Jia. Yongxi smiled and said, "The child is almost 4 years old, and he is very smart. Is it time for him to receive enlightenment education? Have you thought about who to look for to be his teacher?" Jia said, "I plan to do it myself. I don't feel at ease leaving it to others." "Yes," Yongxi said, "but you will be very tired. There is already a lot of work for you every day. After opening the door to the human kingdom, I will either let you look for Yang Dingtian during the holidays or let Yang Dingtian come and visit you and your son. It has been almost 4 years, and it isn't good to let the two of you be separated forever." At this point, Jia's beautiful eyes suddenly trembled. Then she said, "Master, you should look at the thing my father gave you. He said it is very, very important. Have you seen it?" Yongxi asked. "I haven't," Jia said. "Father said that only you can see it." Yongxi opened the box. The first thing that appeared was a letter. This letter was written with an energy scroll. On the surface, there was no content. Yongxi inserted his xianqi. Immediately, complicated patterns appeared on the scroll. They began to correspond one by one. This kind of secret letter could only be seen by the recipient. Only when all the lines matched did the words inside reveal themselves. "Sir Chairman, the Silver Dragon Temple sent a Silver Dragon Inquisitor to capture you. He said that your body had been taken over by the human Wentian and that you had plotted to kill Chairman Yao Qi. Yao Li has already formed the Righteous Alliance and is preparing to impeach you in a joint meeting in a few days. Currently, the Righteous Alliance consisted of the Silvermoon Clan, the Oceanic Clan, the Skyfire Clan, and the Giant Beings clan. I've already pretended to join the Righteous Alliance and detained the Silver Dragon Inquisitor and his men. Of course, I will turn against you in the joint parliament, and His Excellency will be safe and sound. However, there will still be huge trouble after the meeting. I'm afraid that it will lead to a civil war in Little Western Paradise. Please make preparations early, Mr. President. In addition to this letter, there were also a few reply jades. It was the scene of Yao Li forcing the Shadow Spear clan to join the Alliance of Justice and Order, and the Silver Dragon Head Inquisitor negotiating with Yao Nu Tu in private. If Yang Dingtian saw this scene, he would definitely be very shocked. On the surface, Demon's Wrath too was chatting happily with him in the palace, almost treating him as a close friend. The two of them even began to discuss the importance of the Silver Dragon Temple's faith and the division of power of the Silver Dragon Temple in the future. Who would have thought that Demon's Wrath too would sell them out in the blink of an eye? After reading it, Yongshi's face twitched and his pupils shrank. Then, he smiled and passed the letter to Jia. I don't think it's appropriate, Jia said. Yongshi said, there's nothing inappropriate about it. You and I are master and disciple. After receiving the letter, Jia's expression changed completely. Even her breathing became hurried. Yongshi squinted his eyes and stared at Jia's every reaction. Jia read it again and again. She was not completely unaware of the fact that Yongshi had killed Jiao Qi. However, the fact that Yongshi had been taken over by Wentian was extremely shocking to her. Is what it says true? Jia asked with a trembling voice. Yongshi thought for a while and nodded. Yes, it's true. Yongshi admitted it very straightforwardly. Then, the letter in Jia's hand suddenly turned into ashes. This was a true case of burning after reading it. Yongshi said, what's written here is true. What do you think, Jia? Jia was silent for a long time and said, Teacher is right. Our interests are already as one. If teacher loses, the first one to be implicated will be me. The chairman's seat will never be mine. Yongshi smiled and did not say anything. He said, you should know that Yang Dingtian and I are very opposed to each other. Jia revealed a very complicated expression and said, Teacher, you also know that the relationship between Yang Dingtian and I is very complicated. We are husband and wife. Even if they were enemies, they were still enemies. I have wanted to kill him more than once. But ever since the child was born, I have no intention to kill him. Of course, I don't have such thoughts. I also don't want to take his life. However, I can't stand on the same side as him. Yongshi smiled and said, even if the human countries are opened, I have never thought of killing him. Jia said, Teacher, what should we do next? Yongshi said, there's no need to worry about the joint council. Yao Li can fight, but he's a complete mess when it comes to politics. I already knew that he set up the Righteous Alliance to oust me. This person is very funny. He thinks that joining the Righteous Alliance means that we are on the same side. Jia trembled when she heard this. Yongshi's meaning was very clear. At least one of the 4 clans that joined the Righteous Alliance was Yongshi's man. Yongshi already knew that the Silver Dragon Inquisitor wanted to arrest him and that the Righteous Alliance wanted to impeach him. However, he pretended not to know and waited until Demon's Wrath 2 sent a letter before he said this. It could be seen that the Silver Dragon Inquisitor and Yao Li were discovered the moment they entered the Shadow Spear clan. Yao Nu Tu's letter arrived about 30 hours after his meeting with Yang Dingtian. In other words, there was no delay in the middle. Yongshi clearly knew of this important matter but did not say anything. Obviously, he wanted to see Yao Nu Tu's attitude. This person's scheming was indeed very deep. Then, who was the seamless hidden in the Righteous Alliance? Was it the Sky Fire clan or the Giant Beings clan? Jia said, Teacher, in this case, the impeachment against you in the joint council meeting a few days later will certainly fail. However, the real trouble will come after that. Yongshi nodded. From the looks of it, the victory of the Righteous Alliance was already set in stone. The key was that if the Silver Dragon Inquisitor took out this arrest warrant, Yongshi Wentian would definitely disobey. At this time, it would be best if the Grand Priest Association retreated. However, if the Grand Priest Association was enraged and wanted to use all means to protect their dignity, then the entire Silver Dragon Temple would come out in full force. This martial strength would be very shocking. In addition, Yaoli of the Silver Moon Clan had a high cultivation base, and the Silver Moon Clan was good at fighting. This civil war would be very shocking. Moreover, once the Grand Priest Association spread the news that Yongxi was Wintian's possession, he would lose his position. Even if he won the civil war, he would not be able to sit on the chairman's seat. One had to know that in the hearts of many nobles and commoners, the Silver Dragon Temple was very important. Therefore, this was a huge problem. Jia said, "Can we negotiate with the Silver Dragon Temple?" Yongxi thought for a while and shook his head. Negotiation required bargaining chips. The Grand Priest Association had no desires and could not negotiate. Jia said, "Then, how about we kill the Silver Dragon Inquisitor and the punishers he brought?" Yongxi's pupils constricted and a sharp look flashed in his eyes. However, he still shook his head. If they really killed the Silver Dragon Inquisitor, they would not rest until one of them was dead. Yongxi closed his eyes and sat on his seat. He gently rocked the chair and muttered to himself, Let me think. After thinking for an hour, Yongxi still could not think of a perfect solution. Seeing Jia still standing there, he could not help but smile and said, "Jia, you can leave. I will think about it." "Yes," Jia replied. Then, her graceful body left the room. Not long after Jia left, a black figure slowly walked in. Yongxi asked, "Is it done?" The black figure replied, "Everything is ready. The joint council is in the bag." Yongxi nodded and said, "Regarding the Silver Dragon Temple's two solutions, which one do you think is suitable?" The black figure replied, "Because the Little Western Paradise is constantly rotating. Therefore, it is impossible to construct an energy formation to block the entrance between the Buzhou mountain range and the Little Western Paradise. We can only use the second solution, which is to destroy the only energy gate between the Buzhou mountain range and the Little Western Paradise." Yongxi asked, "Can it be done?" The black figure replied, "In fact, the Buzhou mountain range is sandwiched between the torn space and the Little Western Paradise. It is an energy bridge between the two. There is an energy wall between the Buzhou mountain range and the torn space. Similarly, there is also an energy wall between the Buzhou mountain range and the Little Western Paradise. However, several thousand years ago, powerful wordless warlocks finally researched the energy attribute of this energy wall. Therefore, they modified it and created an energy gate that can be passed through. Since then, the Buzhou mountain range and the Little Western Paradise have been connected. However, this energy gate is now in the hands of the Silver Dragon Temple." Yongxi said, "I am very clear about this. I just want to know, can this energy gate be closed?" The black figure replied, "I am experimenting. As long as I find the special energy that can change the energy attribute of the energy wall, I can reverse engineer and destroy this energy, restore the energy wall, and close the energy gate between the Silver Dragon Temple and the Little Western Paradise." Yongxi said hoarsely, "There is not much time left, only a few days." The black figure said, Soon. I already have a lot of ideas. After all, I have read a lot of relevant top-secret information." Yongxi said, "As long as we successfully block the energy gate between the Buzhou mountain range and the Little Western Paradise, we will immediately kill the Silver Dragon Judge and all the punishers." The black figure said slowly, "Of course." Yongxi got up, bowed to the black figure and said, "Then I will leave everything to you, Grand Master." Well said. The black figure said, and then flickered and disappeared from the hall. Time passed day by day. Finally, there was only 1.5 days left until the joint meeting. Monster's Wrath II rode a luxurious flying mount and led a few thousand people to Yindu. Meanwhile, Yang Dingtian led 8 punishers and headed towards Yindu. At the same time, the chiefs of each of the 9 tribes led a powerful team to Yindu. Many people were very puzzled. This was just a very ordinary meeting. There was no need for the chiefs to attend. Even the council members would not be able to attend. As long as Monster's Wrath 2 did not agree, this issue would definitely not pass. Little Western Paradise must be crazy to enter the human countries. Even if this issue was repeated 10 times, it would not pass. It was really strange. For such an ordinary meeting, all 9 tribes were mobilized. Since the 9 tribes were mobilized, the remaining small and medium-sized tribes were also mobilized. In an instant, the entire Little Western Paradise was like a storm. Hundreds of thousands of people were heading to Indu from all directions. It was like a storm was coming. Chapter 1058. In the middle of the night. The leaders of the 9 tribes and other smaller tribes had all entered Indu. Yan Dingtian and the 8 Punishers had also secretly entered Indu. There were still 6 hours before the joint meeting. The acting chairman, Yongxi, hadn't slept yet. He stood in front of the mirror and put on his majestic chairman robe. He wore the silver dragon crown that represented the chairman position. Although he looked calm on the surface, his heart was in turmoil. Even his hands were slightly trembling. It wasn't because of the upcoming joint meeting. This was a game that was already decided. He was nervous because the energy gate between Mount Buzhou and Little Western Paradise hadn't been found yet. If he couldn't seal the gate, it meant that he couldn't do anything to the Silver Dragon Inquisitor. Once the Silver Dragon Inquisitor took out the arrest warrant, Yongxi would be in a very passive position. Finally, a black shadow entered the hall. "Sir Chairman, our experiment is a success. We've also found a way to seal the gate," said the black shadow. Yongxi Wentian's heart jumped. "Will it be troublesome?" the black shadow said. "When it comes to the study of energy, as long as it's unlocked, it's actually the easiest thing to do. In less than 2 days, we'll be able to seal the gate between Mount Buzhou and Little Western Paradise." Yongxi smiled. "If that's the case, then let's do it." "Okay," said the black shadow. Then, in the darkness, a dozen black shadows secretly left Indu and flew toward the border between Mount Buzhou and Little Western Paradise. Yongxi's mouth twitched slightly, and he smiled at the mirror. "We're definitely going to win, aren't we?" Finally, the sun rose. Yongxi Wentian tidied up the silver dragon crown on his head. He lightly swung the silver dragon scepter in his hand and walked out of his palace. He boarded the silver carriage outside and ordered it to drive toward the meeting hall. There were a few other luxurious carriages accompanying it. One of them belonged to Jia. Then, thousands of cavalrymen from the Silver Palace escorted the caravan toward the meeting hall. The meeting hall was about 30 li away from the Silver Palace. This was the center of Indu. It could be considered as the center of power of Little Western Paradise, at least in name. After more than 2 hours, all the members had entered the meeting hall. After arriving, Yongxi and Jia got off the carriage and walked into the meeting hall. Creak! The incomparably huge outer doors slowly closed. Tens of thousands of soldiers and horses were lined up neatly in the square of the great council hall. Most of them were the guards of the Parliament Hall. There were also troops brought by the Yongxi Council Speaker and the 9 great tribe chiefs. This was a closed-door meeting. Most of the seats in the Parliament Hall were empty, but at this moment, they were all full. There were more than 1,000 council members, and none of them were absent. As for the 9 silver seats that represented the highest authority, it was extremely rare that they were all filled with people. The last time this happened was during the election of a new speaker. Even after Yao Qi's death, when Yongxi became the acting speaker, only half of the 9 clan leaders came. At this moment, all of them were present. Originally, during the meeting, they were all whispering to each other and chatting noisily. At this moment, the great council hall was completely silent. Most of the council members did not know what was going on. However, they had an absolutely sensitive political sense. Something big must have happened. Something big must have happened. Moreover, before entering the great council hall, every council member had received an order from the tribe chiefs to follow the tribe chiefs' footsteps unconditionally. Later, no matter what the tribe chief said, the council members would raise their hands accordingly. If there was any disobedience, their entire family would be executed. That's right, that was what the higher-ups said at that time. There was no euphemism at all. They directly used the terrifying word execution. Therefore, all the council members felt as if they were treading on thin ice, trembling in fear. The speaker has arrived. Everyone stand up! A shout was heard. The gilded inner door was opened, and Yongxi, who was dressed to the nines, slowly walked out. Jia, who was also dressed to the nines, followed closely behind. Swoosh! Instantly, all the council members present, including the 9 great tribe chiefs, stood up. Yongxi Wentian came to the speaker's seat in the center. He did not sit down immediately. Instead, he showed an astonished expression and said with a smile, Did I forget that today is a big day? Why are there so many people here? The last time the council voted, the seats were not even half full. Originally, at this time, they should laugh in response to the speaker's humor. However, there was no sound. Please sit. Yongxi waved his hand. Immediately, the 9 great tribe chiefs sat down. Then, more than 1,000 council members present sat down. Yongxi Wentian also sat down. As his assistant, Jia sat down on a smaller seat next to him. Then, dozens of recording jades began to record. Jia spread out the energy notebook and began to record. As the speaker's assistant, his job was just a secretary. He did not have the right to vote. Jia, let's begin, Yongxi said. Jia stood up and said, It's still the 893 topic of this era. Regarding whether to enter the human countries and seize the bases in advance, please state your reasons. Then, a Hindu council member stood up and began to explain. His explanation was very long. It was a few thousand words, and it was accompanied by many images and pictures. All in all, it was to prove one thing. Little Western Paradise was in a very unstable state, and it was constantly being consumed. One day, it would be destroyed. It might be 5,000 years, or 8,000 years. The reason was that compared to 1,000 years ago, Little Western Paradise's Xianxi density had begun to decrease. Moreover, compared to 1,000 years ago, Little Western Paradise's area was increasing. The distance between the floating continents was constantly increasing. In the past 1,000 years, the largest distance between the continents had expanded by more than 200,000 feet, and the smallest was 3,000 feet. In other words, Little Western Paradise was expanding every day, and the distance between the continents was increasing every day. When this distance reached a certain extent, the energy balance of Little Western Paradise would be broken, and Little Western Paradise would be destroyed. Therefore, it was necessary to send some forces into the human countries to develop a new home in the future. Even more blatantly, the Little Western Paradise had to colonize the human countries and occupy the entire Vitality continent. After a full 4 hours, the councilman finally finished explaining his reasons. However, no one in the room was listening carefully. The only one who was listening carefully was Yang Dingtian outside the hall. Just from the explanation of this article, it was a very scientific and rigorous article, and it was full of arguments. Little Western Paradise was indeed expanding, and the distance between the continents was indeed increasing. If this continued, Little Western Paradise would be destroyed one day. However, it would definitely not be 5,000 years, nor 8,000 years. It would be tens of thousands of years later. The councillors and patriarchs present were also well aware of this. They also knew that this concerned the survival of Little Western Paradise. However, there were still tens of thousands of years left. It was too early to bring it up now. Of course, most of the council members did not care about the invasion of the human countries. They did not care about the life and death of the human countries. What they cared about was the will of their respective clan leaders. Because Yao Li had always disliked Yongxi, he would definitely not agree. He felt that Yongxi had an ulterior motive. As for Yao Nu too, for some reason, he did not agree. Since the two of them did not agree, this proposal could not be passed. Jia said, The council member has finished his explanation. Those who agree to this proposal to let Little Western Paradise enter the human countries and build a base, please raise your hand. All the council members held their hands tightly, not daring to move. Everyone's gazes were fixed on their clan leader. If they raised their hands, the council members would raise their hands as fast as they could. Therefore, all the council members were nervous at this time. Swoosh! More than 100 people raised their hands. They were council members from Indu. More than 90% of them raised their hands. Then, another person raised his hand. It was clan leader Gina, Yao Qi's adoptive father. He was the second to raise his hand. As he raised his hand, all the council members in Gina's camp raised their hands. Then, the third camp raised their hand. It was the Griffin clan, the headquarters of Yongxi. Then, the fourth camp raised their hand. It was the flashy Tiansua clan. Then, no one raised their hand. Including Yao Nu too, who sat motionless and even closed his eyes. Yao Li's camp would not raise their hand to agree. Out of more than 1,000 members, more than 400 of them raised their hands. Without a doubt, this proposal could not be passed. Almost everyone present could think of this result. Because the previous few votes had the same result. Jia stood up and said, "Regarding this proposal, if more than half of the council members agree, the proposal will not be passed." Yongxi stood up and smiled. "Looks like this is going to be a long battle. If it is not passed, then today's meeting will end. However, since it is rare for all the clan leaders to come, let's move to the Silver Palace to participate in the banquet. It will also give me a chance to bribe all the clan leaders." When these words were said, the 9 clan leaders should have smiled and agreed. However, there was still no sound. Even those who stood in Yongxi's camp were suppressed by this atmosphere and did not dare to show any dissatisfaction. Yongxi Wentian did not care and said, "Since the proposal is over, let's disperse." Then, Jia stood up and was about to put away the energy notebook. Suddenly, Yao Li stood up and said, "Wait, Sir Yongxi, we have another proposal." Yongxi smiled and said, "Oh, clan leader Yao Li, what is it?" Yao Li said, "Sir Yongxi is suspected of being possessed by the human Wentian and of murdering Yao Qi. The Silver Dragon Temple has issued an arrest warrant to bring Yongxi back to Mount Buzhou to identify his true identity. Before this, I believe that Sir Yongxi is no longer the acting chairman of Little Western Paradise. Therefore, my proposal is to ask Sir Yongxi to step down." When these words were said, everyone's expression changed. Yao Li's words were like a storm, like a bolt of lightning, striking everyone's heart. All the councillors clutched at their hearts, unable to bear the news. The entire venue seemed to have been swept by a hurricane. Then, the door of the hall was opened. Yang Dingtian, who was acting as the Silver Dragon judge, led 8 mighty punishers and walked over slowly. He took out the arrest warrant. Then, in front of everyone, he said, "Sir Yongxi Wentian, Chairman Yongxi of the Western Paradise, Buzhou Mountain suspects that you have been possessed by the human Wentian. Moreover, they are also suspicious of Chairman Yao Qi's death. We have enough reason to suspect that your existence will have a fatal impact on the survival of the Western Paradise. We order you to come to Mount Buzhou Mountain's High Priest Association to clear the High Priest Association of their suspicion." After he finished reading, the entire hall fell into a deathly silence. The world was going to change. The sky was going to fall and the earth was going to crack. Then Yang Dingtian handed the arrest warrant to Yongxi Wentian and said slowly, "Sir Yongxi, please come with us." Suddenly, everyone's eyes were focused on Yongxi and Yang Dingtian. Everyone held their breaths as they waited to see if Yongxi would accept Yang Dingtian's arrest warrant. Chapter 1059. Yongxi didn't accept Yang Dingtian's arrest warrant. Instead, he smiled and said, "The Silver Dragon Inquisitor hasn't appeared in a few hundred years. His sudden appearance this time is really shocking." Yang Dingtian ignored Yongxi's words. Yongxi smiled and said, "First of all, the Silver Dragon Temple has no right to interfere with the internal affairs of the Little Western Paradise, right?" Yang Dingtian said, My Buzhou Mountain has no intention of interfering with the internal affairs of the Little Western Paradise. Yongxi smiled and said, Then the Silver Dragon Temple doesn't have the right to take away my position, right? Yang Dingtian said, Of course, the Divine Dragon Temple doesn't have the right to take away your position. They just want to bring you back to the Silver Dragon Temple to verify your identity. Yongxi said, Then how about we send someone to Buzhou Mountain to verify the authenticity of this arrest warrant? Yang Dingtian sneered and said, There's the energy badge of the Silver Dragon Temple and the personal badge of the High Priest Association's president here. Are they fake? Yongxi said, Of course these badges are real. However, I heard that the High Priest Association's internal affairs are quite undisciplined. I'm worried that this sacred organization will be used by some people with ulterior motives, so I'm sending someone to verify the authenticity of this arrest warrant. It's not too much, right? Yang Dingtian's eyes narrowed. He wasn't afraid of someone going to Buzhou Mountain to verify it. Since Fire Dance could dismiss this arrest warrant, she would definitely guarantee its authenticity. The key was Yongxi's attitude. He wanted to verify it. Was he stalling for time, or was he plotting something? Before Yang Dingtian could say anything, Yao Li said loudly, Your Excellency Yongxi, you're saying that you haven't been possessed by the human Wentian, right? Yongxi smiled and said, Of course. Yao Li said, Then why are you afraid of going to Buzhou Mountain? Yongxi smiled and said, It's not that I don't want to go. I just suspect that someone used the Silver Dragon Temple to issue this arrest warrant, so I want to verify it. Yang Dingtian said slowly, If you want to verify it, of course you can. However, this does not prevent you from accepting or rejecting this investigation order. If you refuse, I will regard it as an act of disobedience and a crime against Little Western Paradise. The Silver Dragon Temple's crimes. Immediately after, Yao Li said, Here, as the leader of the Silvermoon clan, I propose the strategic issue of Little Western Paradise. This was because the acting chairman Yongxi was suspected of being possessed by a human and was suspected of murdering chairman Yao Qi. Therefore, I propose that the parliament take away Yongxi's position as acting chairman and restore him to his original position after his innocence is cleared. Chairman Yongxi smiled and said, Your Excellency Yao Li, are you trying to impeach me? Yao Li nodded. That's right. Yongxi smiled and said, If I remember correctly, the kings of the 9 tribes have the power to impeach the current chairman. However, if the impeachment fails, you will lose your position as the clan leader. Even worse, the Silvermoon clan will be expelled from the 9 great clans. The laws of Little Western Paradise were quite complete, especially when it came to the balance of power between the 9 tribes and the chairman. The chairman controlled Indu and the balance between the 9 tribes, so he had the most power. However, he only held the position for 200 years. The 9 great clan leaders were eternal rulers. They were hereditary rulers. However, if they were listed individually, their power would be even smaller than the chairman. However, even during the chairman's term, the 9 clan leaders still had the power to impeach him. However, the price would be very heavy. If the impeachment failed, he would lose his position as one of the 9 clan leaders and even his clan would be expelled from the 9 great clans. Therefore, in the past few thousand years, there were very few who dared to use the power of impeachment. Even if his clan was bullied badly by the chairman, he could bear with it, and the 200 years would pass. However, the impeachment of the chairman would basically fail. Yao Li smiled. Of course, I know the consequences of impeaching the chairman. If the impeachment fails, I will automatically lose my position as the king of the Silvermoon clan. My clan will be stripped of all power in the Silvermoon clan. Yongxi said. That's not enough. The Silvermoon clan will also be expelled from the 9 great clans. Yao Li gritted his teeth and said, Regarding this, let's wait until I fail the impeachment before we vote. In fact, if the impeachment failed, then the Silvermoon clan was destined to be expelled from the 9 great clans. Only someone with an iron will like Yao Li would dare to make such a decisive bet. Yongxi smiled. Very well. I approve the voting procedure for this issue. Instantly, Jia stood up again and said, "The Silver Moon clan leader, Yao Li II, is being impeached because the acting chairman, Yong Shi, is suspected of being possessed by a human and of murdering the chairman, Yao Qi. Now let the voting begin. Those who agree with the impeachment of Yao Li, please raise your hand." Because it was impeaching the chairman, all the councillors in the Silver Capital did not have the right to raise their hands. The Little Western Paradise Council had a strict avoidance system. Just as Jia finished speaking, Yao Li was the first to raise his hand. At the same time, the Silver Moon councillors behind him all raised their hands. Basically, no councillor would dare to betray their clan leader under any circumstances. Even if there was an abyss in front of them, they would jump down. Once they betrayed their clan leader, it could be said that their entire clan would face destruction. Yao Li's eyes looked at his allies like lightning. Immediately, the Oceanic clan leader, Yao Long, quickly raised his fat hand. He did not have the right to choose. The entire Oceanic clan was supporting Yao Li. Yao Li's eyes looked at the Sky Fire clan and the Giant Beings clan. The Giant Beings clan leader, Yao Ju II, was injured and did not have the right to choose. He glared at Yao Li angrily and raised his hand. At the same time, all the councillors from the Giant Beings clan raised their hands. 3 clans had already raised their hands. Yao Li stared at the Sky Fire clan. One had to know that they had signed the impeachment agreement. The Sky Fire clan leader Yao Yan sat there without moving. Suddenly, Yao Li's expression changed. Yang Dingtian's heart also trembled. Yao Li said coldly, "Clan leader Yao Yan, don't forget that you signed the Righteous Alliance agreement." Yao Yan sneered. "Your Excellency Yao Li, what does signing the Righteous Alliance agreement have to do with today's vote?" Yao Li's expression changed. He said sternly, "You dare to go against the agreement?" Yao Yan said, "Your Excellency Yao Li, no matter how domineering you are, you can't force me to raise my hand on such an important issue. I feel that Chairman Yongxi is very responsible. The so-called human possession and the murder of Chairman Yao Qi are completely baseless. Who doesn't know that Chairman Yao Qi is his favorite student? On the other hand, you have an irreconcilable hatred with Chairman Yao Qi. The so-called murder of Chairman Yao Qi is just a false accusation." Once these words were spoken, Yang Dingtian's heart was filled with shock. Yao Yan definitely did not change his stance just now. When he signed the agreement, he had already made his decision. He must have been bought over by Yongxi long ago. However, the Sky Fire clan had already been bullied by the Shadow Spear clan, and the Shadow Spear clan had colluded with Yongxi. How could Yao Yan from the Sky Fire clan be bought over by Yongxi? What did Yongxi use to buy him over? However, no matter how, Yao Yan from the Sky Fire clan was undoubtedly Yongxi's spy. This was something that even Yao Nu II did not know. There was actually a spy from Yongxi in the Righteous Alliance. The betrayal of Yao Yan from the Sky Fire clan had pushed Yao Li into a desperate situation. After all, if the impeachment failed, Yao Li would lose his position as one of the 9 clan leaders, and the Silver Moon clan would be kicked out of the 9 clans. This meant complete destruction. Yao Li's entire body trembled. His eyes looked like they were about to spit fire, and his veins bulged. Then, he looked at Yao Nu II. Now, all his hopes were on Yao Nu II. Because the Moro clan was his absolute vassal. As long as Yao Nu II raised his hand, the Moro clan would raise their hand as well. When that happened, 5 of the 9 clans would still agree to the impeachment, and Yongxi would still lose his position as chairman. Yao Li stared at Yao Nu II. This was the most cunning person in the entire Little Western Paradise. He had already betrayed Yao Li twice, so it was normal for him to betray him a 3rd time. As for Yao Nu II, he sat there without moving. Even his eyes were closed. Yao Li's face instantly lost all color. His entire body turned cold, and he felt his body falling into an abyss. This time, he was really done for. Yao Li trembled. "Your Excellency Yao Nu, don't forget that you also signed the agreement." Before Yao Nu II could finish, Chairman Yongxi laughed. "Your Excellency Yao Li, in fact, One day after you persuaded Yao Nu the clan leader, Yao Nu the clan leader gave me a handwritten letter, telling me that there was a huge conspiracy against me. For the sake of Little Western Paradise, for the sake of justice, he told me to be prepared and not let the conspiracy succeed. He was just pretending to be polite. Not only that, he also sent a video recording of how you bewitched Yao Nu the clan leader. Jia, take it out for everyone to see. Jia stood up, took out the recording jade, and inserted her xianqi. Suddenly, a huge image was projected. It was the image of Yao Li persuading Yao Nu II, and Yang Dingtian as the silver dragon judge negotiating with Yao Nu II alone. When this image appeared, Yao Li II and Yang Dingtian couldn't feel any warmth at all. Great, this Yao Nu II was indeed the most treacherous person in the world. He betrayed them the first time, the second time, and now the third time. It was a fatal blow to Yao Li II, a fatal blow to the Silver Moon clan. Once the Silver Moon clan was expelled from the 9 great tribes, the Oceanic clan would be hard-pressed to protect. Even the isolated giant beings would be in danger. Out of the 9 great tribes, there would be 3 vacancies, and 2 would fall into the hands of the Shadow Spear clan. In this way, the Shadow Spear clan would have 3 vassals among the 9 great tribes, occupying half of Little Western Paradise. Amazing! Chairman Yongshi's face was filled with the smile of a victor. He slowly said, Your Excellency Silver Dragon Judge, Your Excellency Yao Li. In order to make Yao Nu the clan leader push me down, you didn't hesitate to offer a series of conditions to bribe him. Is this still the style of the Silver Dragon Temple? Therefore, I have every reason to suspect your identity. I have already sent people to Mount Buzhou to verify it. Once it is confirmed that you are not the Silver Dragon Judge, I will publicly execute you in the name of Mount Buzhou. As soon as he said this, everyone's expression changed. Not only did Yongxi want to eliminate the Silver Moon clan, but he also wanted to kill the Silver Dragon Judge. This was going to be a fight to the death. Yongxi slowly walked down to Demon Fury 2 and hugged him emotionally. Then, he held his shoulder and said loudly, Demon Fury, and this Silver Dragon Inquisitor whose identity I don't know, do you think that you can use despicable means to turn a deer into a horse? Do you think you can use benefits to make Yao Nu change his stance? You are wrong. You have completely underestimated the justice of Yao Nu the clan leader. You have completely underestimated the friendship and tacit understanding between me and Yao Nu the clan leader. Yao Nu the clan leader has always been the symbol of justice. He has always been the pillar of Little Western Paradise. At any time, do not try to overthrow this great leader. Yongshi's words resounded throughout the hall. He used all the great praise in the world on Yao Nu II. He wanted everyone to see the friendship and common interests between him and Yao Nu II. As long as Yao Nu II and Yongxi stood together, no one in this world would be able to overthrow the power structure of Little Western Paradise. All the clan leaders and counselors did not dare to make a sound. They felt that the entire sky was covered by a name. That was Yao Nu II. At any time, he could influence the structure of Little Western Paradise. From Yongxi's new civilization movement to Yao Qi the chairman, Yao Nu II could become a key figure in the entire world. At the same time, everyone looked at Yao Li with eyes full of sympathy. The third time, the Silver Moon clan had been betrayed by Yao Nu the third time. The third time, they had become Yao Nu II's stepping stone. As for Yao Li, he was trembling all over. He was unaware of everything around him. At this moment, he only had one thought, which was to charge forward and kill Yao Nu II. He wanted to die together with him. Chairman Yongxi looked at Yao Li and smiled proudly. Now, isn't it time to start another topic? Expel the Silver Moon clan from the 9 great tribes. Then Yongxi looked at Yao Nu II kindly and said, Your Excellency Wrath King, this topic will be started by you. In addition, the 9 great tribes were the foundation of Little Western Paradise's power, so letting new tribes enter the 9 great tribes couldn't be delayed for even a single day. The topic of adding new tribes to the 9 great tribes will also be proposed by Your Excellency Wrath King. Yongxi's opinion was very clear. Let Yao Nu the second personally expel the Silvermoon clan from the 9 great tribes, and then let him nominate a new 9 great tribes. In this battle, the Shadow Spear clan had gained the most benefits. Yao Nu the second looked at Yongxi and smiled. Your Excellency Yongxi, the original topic hasn't been voted yet. You can't propose a new topic. Then Yao Nu the second stood up and raised his hand. I agree with Yao Li's topic. Chairman Yongxi should be impeached. Instantly, everyone's expression changed. Yongxi looked as if he was struck by lightning. Chapter 1060. Yongxi Wentian's expression froze. He was a cunning old fox and would never lose his composure. He couldn't understand why Monster's Wrath 2 would stab him in the back at such a crucial moment. There was no reason. He had already told Jia that he had a way to deal with the Silver Dragon Temple. Moreover, the Shadow Spear tribe would benefit the most from this battle. The Silvermoon tribe would be expelled from the 9 great tribes, and the empty spot would be given to Monster's Wrath 2. The Oceanic tribe would not be able to stay in the 9 great tribes for long after losing the Silvermoon tribe. Yongxi and the Skyfire tribe would split the benefits equally. The giant beings would also be expelled from the 9 great tribes. Yongxi didn't want to give this spot to Monster's Wrath 2. He wanted to give it to his own Northwind tribe, but before that, he had to give the Shadow Spear tribe great benefits. As such, the Shadow Spear race was the one who got the most out of all the loot. If he was kicked out, the Shadow Spear tribe wouldn't get any benefits. Monster's Wrath 2 was someone who only cared about benefits. How could he make such a stupid decision? Yongxi couldn't understand at all. In Yongxi's heart, Monster's Wrath 2 was a cunning opportunist who would betray anyone for benefits. Therefore, as long as there were benefits, Monster's Wrath 2 would never betray him. However, Monster's Wrath 2 had indeed betrayed him. Why? Why was that? As Monster Rage 2 raised his hand, the entire hall was shocked. Even the Shadow Spear counselors lost their ability to react, standing there in a daze. Humph! Monster's Wrath 2 roared. Instantly, the Shadow Spear tribe members raised their hands in unison. Almost at the same time, the vassal of the Shadow Spear tribe, Leader Mo Luo, quickly raised his hand. Leader Mo Luo didn't know what was going on, but he was a vassal of the Shadow Spear tribe and didn't dare to disobey. Otherwise, he wouldn't live to see the next day. At the same time, the Mo Luo tribe members also raised their hands. Monster's Wrath 2's gaze landed on the Golden Ah tribe. Previously, when Yao Qi was elected as chairman, the Golden Ah tribe and the Shadow Spear tribe were absolute allies. However, after Yao Qi's death, Chairman Yongxi secretly supported the Golden Ah clan. Especially after the young master of the Golden Ah clan returned to the Little Western Paradise from the Empire of Darkness, his relationship with Yongxi became even closer. Vaguely, the Golden Ah clan and the Shadow Spear clan were at odds. The seeds of discord had been planted when Yao Qi was the speaker. After Yao Qi became the chairman, he was much closer to the Shadow Spear race than the Golden Ah race, even though he used to be the adopted son of the Golden Ah race. Therefore, compared to the Shadow Spear clan, the Golden Ah clan had a closer relationship with Yongxi. However, at that moment, 5 of the 9 great tribes had agreed to Yao Li's impeachment. In other words, Yongxi's downfall was already destined. At this time, it was up to the Golden Ah clan to decide. Should he continue to stubbornly hold on, or should everyone give Yongxi a push from behind? After a short moment of life and death, the Golden Ah clan still chose to push a man who was down. He raised his hand and agreed to let President Yongxi step down. Immediately after, all the representatives of the Golden Ah clan raised their hands. Yao Wrath 2's gaze fell on the Tianxia clan. This clan had produced the most philosophers and artists. It was the birthplace of the ostentatious civilization. To put it bluntly, this clan had been fooled by Yongxi. In this clan, strength was a synonym for humiliation. At this time, the Tianxia clan's leader had already become a maverick in his limited attire. He had pretended to be a wise man. The Tianxia clan's leader was the one who supported Yongxi the most. He was the true proponent of the new civilization movement. However, philosophers were not idiots. Among the 9 great clan leaders, the one with a one-track mind was Yao Li. He was the only one who would endanger the fate of the entire clan again and again, all for the sake of an illusory justice. Therefore, Yao Li would go against the entire world again and again. He would also forget that Yao Qi had killed his son. For the sake of the little western paradise, he would forget about the grudge with a smile. Therefore, in his guilt and trembling, the Tianxua clan's leader raised his hand and agreed to let Yongxi step down. In the end, all eyes fell on Yongxi's base camp, the Beifeng clan's leader. The Beifeng clan's leader was completely at a loss. His arms felt as if they weighed 1,000 pounds. Yongxi had never stopped taking care of the Beifeng clan for hundreds of years. Therefore, the Beifeng clan had always been Yongxi's staunch supporters. However, when they saw Yao Rathtu's malicious gaze, everyone knew in their hearts. This was a battle of choosing sides. It was a redistribution of benefits. It wasn't easy for them to impeach the chairman. Such a huge battle had to be ceded to the winner. Otherwise, it wouldn't be worth it to choose sides. Indu couldn't be the spoils of war. Therefore, the spoils of war could only belong to one of the 9 great clans. They had chosen the wrong side. Therefore, as Yongxi stepped down, one of the 9 great clans would definitely be expelled. If the Beifeng clan was determined to support Yongxi, then the one to be expelled would either be the Beifeng clan or the Skyfire clan. Even if there was only a 50% chance, the Beifeng clan's leader didn't dare to take the risk. Sorry. I have to be responsible for the entire clan. The Beifeng clan's leader looked at Yongxi guiltily. Then, he closed his eyes and raised his heavy arm. At the same time, all the counselors behind him raised their hands. Then, the 8 great clans all looked at the Skyfire clan's leader. Their gazes were filled with malicious intent. It was the gaze of a ferocious beast looking at its prey. The Skyfire clan's leader, Yao Yan, felt as if his heart was being devoured by thousands of ants. He was filled with incomparable hatred and regret. He hated Yao Rathtu for not acting according to common sense. He hated himself for voicing his opinion so early. He clenched his teeth and suddenly raised his hand and said loudly, I also agree with Chairman Yongxi stepping down. He has undeniable responsibility for Chairman Yao Qi's death. Everyone gives a push when the wall is down. Everyone gives a push when the wall is down. The 9 great clans all raised their hands. Yao Yan, is there anyone more shameless than you? You said Yao Li was the murderer. Now you say Yongxi killed Yao Qi? Your mouth is even more shameless than a prostitute's. Yao Rath smiled coldly and said, Clan leader Yao Yan, you've already voted. How can you vote for a second time in such a serious meeting? Ridiculous! Hearing that, the Skyfire clan's leader, Yao Yan's expression changed. He had surrendered, but they didn't even accept him. They were going to kill him. The remaining kings of the 8 great clans all smiled cruelly. How could there be no spoils of war in such a big fight? How could there be no prey? Then, the Skyfire clan would be the best prey. As for how they would divide the spoils, it would depend on the meeting later. However, the fate of the Skyfire clan was already decided. With Yao Rathtu's betrayal, the entire situation was like a domino. The 9 great clans all stood against Yongxi. In Little Western Paradise, Yongxi was done for. Even if he could prove in the Silver Dragon Temple that he wasn't possessed and that he didn't kill Yao Qi, he was done for. No matter whether he was possessed or not, he was already possessed. No matter whether he killed Yao Qi or not, he was already the murderer. The 8 great clans wouldn't slap themselves in the face. Therefore, it didn't matter whether they went to the Silver Dragon Temple or not. Yongxi was done for as the chairman. Yao Li was completely stunned by this result. He looked at Yao Rathtu in disbelief. His Silver Moon clan had already fallen to hell. Why would Yao Rathtu reach out and pull him up to heaven? At this time, it would be more beneficial for the Shadow Spear clan to stand on Yongxi's side. Yongxi's pale face finally regained its expression. He looked at Yao Rathtu and asked, Why? Yao Wrath too said seriously. When Yao Li and the Silver Dragon Judge came to me, I didn't believe that you were possessed. I also didn't believe that you killed Jiao Qi. That's why I wrote a letter to remind you and gave you the reflection jade. That's because I believe in your character and innocence. However, Jia unintentionally asked if you were really possessed and if you really killed Jiao Qi. Your answer was that when I heard the news, it was like a bolt from the blue. I actually colluded with a murderer. Therefore, even if the situation wasn't good for us, I still stood for justice. I knew that standing on your side was more beneficial for me, but I still stood for justice. Even if my Shadow Spear clan was expelled from the 9 great clans, I still made the same choice. At this time, Yao Wrath too spoke righteously as if he was the representative of justice. Yao Wrath too looked at Jia. Jia immediately stood up and said, That's true. That night, when I gave my father's letter and the reflection jade to Chairman Yongxi, he wasn't surprised after reading it. He was confident. I originally scoffed at the rumors of Chairman Yongxi killing Chairman Yao Qi. However, when I asked him if he had killed Chairman Yao Qi, Yongxi's answer was disdain. At that moment, I felt like the world was falling apart. Yongxi couldn't hold it in anymore and spat out a mouthful of blood. As expected of a father and daughter, they betrayed each other without any pressure at the crucial moment. He had groomed Jia so much. At the crucial moment, she didn't even bat an eyelid and stabbed him in the back. Damn it! You already knew that I killed Jiao Qi, okay? Now you're telling me that the world is falling apart? Jia and Yao Wrath too were truly father and daughter. In fact, before the meeting started, Jia and her father had never talked to each other. Yao Wrath too didn't know that Yongxi had admitted to killing Yao Qi too in front of Jia. He was just framing Yongxi. Jia, on the other hand, tacitly stepped forward and added salt to the wound for her father. She was such a beauty. Even Yongxi felt that he was close to Jia as if they were father and daughter. However, this woman turned on him as easily as flipping a book. Demon Rage too arrived in front of Yang Dingtian and bowed. Lord Silver Dragon Inquisitor, our joint council's matters have already been settled. The rest will be handed over to the Silver Dragon Temple. Yang Dingtian looked at Yao Wrath too and couldn't suppress the shock in his heart. He returned the bow and said, Thank you, Yao Wrath. Then Yang Dingtian handed the arrest warrant to Yongxi Wentian again and said, Sir, do you accept this arrest warrant now? Now Yang Dingtian hoped that Yongxi wouldn't accept it. Even Yao Wrath too hoped that Yongxi wouldn't accept it. If he didn't accept it, he would be disobeying orders. Then Yang Dingtian's punishers wouldn't be pushovers. They would take action immediately. In a chaotic battle, killing those who resisted was a normal thing. Both Yang Dingtian and Yao Wrath too hoped to get rid of Yongxi here. Therefore, he really hoped that Yongxi would be stubborn to the end. Yongxi staggered and spat out a mouthful of blood. Good, very good. Ha ha. Yongxi Wentian laughed. Then, he took a few steps forward and knelt in front of Yang Dingtian. He took the arrest warrant with both hands and said, Yongxi Wentian obeys the orders of the Silver Dragon Temple. Just like that, Yongxi Wentian surrendered. Disappointment flashed in Yao Wrath too's eyes. Yongxi Wentian was still able to keep a clear head. At this time, the Silver Dragon Judge and the Punishers were the only things that could save his life. Staying here was truly a dead end. If he followed the Silver Dragon Judge to Mount Buzhou, there was still a chance. Of course, he didn't expect the Silver Dragon Judge to be Yang Dingtian. Chapter 1061. Afterwards, Yongxi Wentian lost all of his freedom and was imprisoned by the 8 Punishers. The United Council was adjourned for a short while. Afterwards, the 9 clan leaders and Yang Dingtian would have to escort Yongxi into Mount Buzhou to find out his true identity. As for Monster Fury 2 and Monster Li, they entered a secret lounge. Monster Li directly asked, Why? Monster Fury 2 said, You should have 2 whys. Which one are you asking? Yao Li said, Ask them both. The first why was why Monster Fury 2 had written a letter to Yongxi after negotiating with Yang Dingtian and Monster Li, telling him the whole story. The second why was why he had betrayed Monster Li, and then betrayed Yongxi. It was obvious that he had more to gain by siding with Yongxi. Monster Fury 2 said, "The first why is why I betrayed you. Why did I inform Yongxi?" Monster Li nodded. Monster Fury 2 nodded. "The reason is very simple. Yongxi definitely has spies among the 4 great clans of your righteous alliance. I don't know if it's 1 or 2, but there must be. Thus, whether I informed him or not, Yongxi would know. And since I did, I had the freedom to choose my side. I can stand on Yongxi's side, but I can also stand on your side. Of course, from another perspective, I could have fooled Yongxi into thinking that victory was already in his grasp." This explanation was very clear. Monster Fury 2 said, "The second why is why I chose to stand with you at the last moment, right?" Monster Li nodded. Monster Fury 2 said, "There are 2 reasons. The first reason is that I wanted to see how the 4 great clans of your righteous alliance would perform. If only a single clan betrayed you, then the Moro clan and I would be able to reverse the situation. But what if it wasn't just 1 clan that was bought over by Yongxi, but 2? Then even if the Moro clan and I both supported you, only 4 of the 9 clans would support you. This impeachment wouldn't pass. I definitely wouldn't stand with the losers. At that time, I would definitely push you off the cliff. The result wasn't bad. Only a single clan was bought over by Yongxi. And I just happened to be able to reverse the situation and cause Yongxi to die." Demon's Wrath 2 was indeed out of ideas. His disclosure to Yongxi had not only numbed Yongxi, but also put him in an invincible position. Demon Rage 2 continued, "Next, it's the most important question. Today, no one could understand why I would betray Yongxi at such a critical moment. Yongxi didn't expect this, and neither did you. If I stand on Yongxi's side, I can let 2 of my vassals enter the 9 great tribes. This way, I can have 4 of them, or at least 3.5. Yongxi isn't worried about me betraying him at all. Because of this, it's in my interest to stand on his side." Yao Li nodded and said, "That's right. I never thought that you would betray Yongxi at the last moment." Demon Rage 2 said, "The reason is very simple. You all misjudged me. Yongxi misjudged me, and you, Yao Li, who flaunted yourself as a hero, also misjudged me. You all think of me as a profit-seeking person, a cunning person. Only the Silver Dragon Head Inquisitor was able to see through my heart. That was why he was willing to negotiate with me. I, Demon Rage 2, have never been a utilitarian. I, Demon Rage 2, have never betrayed anyone. I'm not a mercenary. I'm a strategist, an idealist." When Demon Rage 2 spoke these words, his tone was sonorous and forceful, and it was so loud that even the apathetic could hear it. He said that he had never betrayed her, nor had he ever sold her out. He said these words confidently, without a hint of shame. This made Yao Li want to laugh in disdain. But when he saw Demon Rage 2's expression, which was close to being holy, he suppressed this urge to ridicule him. A naked traitor, a two-faced man, actually said that he had never betrayed anyone. Was there anything more ridiculous than this? The first time, he had betrayed the 3 races. The second time, he had betrayed the Silver City Council. The third time, he had betrayed the Righteous Alliance. The fourth time, he had betrayed Yongxi. If Demon Rage 2 wasn't a traitor, then there were no traitors in this world. Demon Rage 2 stared at Yao Li and said word by word, "I've never betrayed my ideals. You're loyal to the Demon King, and I'm also loyal to him. It's just that your allegiance is too narrow. As for my loyalty, it is the true immortality. You're loyal to him, and I'm loyal to his ideals, his unfinished business." Demon Rage 2 stood up and said, "Yao Li, do you still remember what our ideals are?" Yao Li said, "Of course I do. Destroy the 9 great tribes, unify Little Western Paradise, and establish the Silver Dragon Empire. Lead the Silver Dragon Empire to become a true, eternal, and long-lasting civilization." "That's right. Demon Rage 2 said. This is the Demon King's ideal. It's also our father's ideal, and it's also our ideal. The three of us from our father's generation are united because we share the same ideals. The Demon King's strategy is to conquer by force. His strategy can't be said to be wrong. If the Demon King and our father hadn't died suddenly and used force to unify Little Western Paradise, after a few hundred years, or even a few thousand years, the 9 great tribes could have been truly unified. But the Demon King's sudden death, it made it impossible to conquer the 9 great tribes by force. If we want to unify Little Western Paradise and establish the Silver Dragon Empire, we have to walk another path. Yao Li said. You're talking about your path? Yes. Demon Rage 2 said. Of course, a long time ago, I didn't have a path either. The only thing I could do was to protect the Shadow Spear tribe, protect myself, and let my ideals survive. If we want to unify Little Western Paradise, we have to strengthen ourselves and weaken our enemies. So, the new civilization movement of eternal sacrifice entered my vision. His ostentatious civilization could easily lead many tribes to decay and weaken. And your Silver Moon tribe, Oceanic tribe, and giant beings are outside the new civilization movement. In addition to my Shadow Spear tribe's strength, when the other 5 tribes are weak 1,000 years later, it will be the time for our 4 tribes to rise again. Yao Li thought about it. Demon Rage's actions and his strategy were exactly the same. So, at the crucial moment, he betrayed the Righteous Alliance and walked together with the Silver Capital. It was to infiltrate the enemy camp and lead the new civilization movement. Moreover, once Jia became the new chairman, he could lead the new civilization movement further and weaken the other tribes. Demon Rage 2 said. According to my strategy, after 300 years or 500 years, I would betray the Silver Capital Council again and join the Righteous Alliance again. Then, I would crush the 5 great tribes with force. But the appearance of the Silver Dragon Inquisitor and his negotiation with me went straight into my heart. He was my confidant and knew what I wanted. So, I changed my strategy and betrayed eternal sacrifice. Yao Li said. What did he talk to you about? Demon Rage 2 said. It's simple. After eternal sacrifice stepped down, Nera became the new acting chairman. Jia became the chairman's assistant and the next chairman. My grandson, the half-god descendant, was sent to the Silver Dragon Temple to be educated. He became the bridge between the Little Western Paradise and the Silver Dragon Temple. It greatly increased the Silver Dragon Temple's status and used religion and faith to connect the 9 great tribes. It made the Silver Dragon Temple's status in the Little Western Paradise sacred and inviolable. After 1 or 2 terms as chairman, Jia would become the saintess of the Silver Dragon Temple. After thousands of years of religious brainwashing, the 9 great tribes system would be weakened and the Little Western Paradise would be unified. I won't become the emperor of the Silver Dragon Empire, but my grandson is the only half-god descendant in the Little Western Paradise. He can become the first emperor of the Silver Dragon Empire. After hearing this, Yao Li trembled and his eyes lit up. This path could really be taken. And it was really feasible. This meant that his dream would come true. The Little Western Paradise would really be unified and become a united empire. Then, it would lead to the Fox tribe and turn an abnormal civilization into a normal one. Demon Rage 2 said. Yao Li, from now on, I need your cooperation and even obedience. You are brave, noble, powerful, and righteous. You are the best general, but you are definitely not a leader or a commander. For our dream, are you willing to obey me? Yao Li's face twitched. He was only loyal to his father, and the king of the demon tribe. At that time, Demon Rage 2 and Demon Li 2 were the left and right arms of the king of the demon tribe. But now, there was no king of the demon tribe. There was only Demon Rage 2 and Demon Li 2. One had to be the main and the other the assistant. Taking a deep breath, Demon Li 2 knew clearly that he was not a brilliant strategist. He was just a sharp weapon. Then, he bowed deeply to Demon Rage 2 and said, I am willing to obey your strategy. But if I find out that you have violated our dream, I will take your life without hesitation. Okay. Demon Rage 2 said. After we leave here, we will still act as enemies. At that time, you will become my sharp sword. You will help me get rid of my enemies until all of our enemies have been annihilated. It was foreseeable that when Demon Rage 2 and Demonly 2 joined hands, they would be invincible in Little Western Paradise. Moreover, the two of them were enemies on the surface, but they could do whatever they wanted and eliminate all enemies. Demon Rage 2 stretched out his hand and said, I am waiting for the day the Silver Dragon Empire is established. Demonly 2 stretched out his hand and said, I am also waiting for that day. From the moment the two of them shook hands, it was destined that the power structure of Little Western Paradise would be completely overturned. From this day onwards, Indu's influence and the chairman's influence would be greatly reduced. Yang Dingtian was meditating in a secret room. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Come in, Yang Dingtian said. A beautiful and graceful figure walked in leisurely. It was Jia, who had turned from a girl into a beautiful young woman. Jia is here to pay respects to the Silver Dragon Judge. Jia bowed, but her gaze was fixed on Yang Dingtian's face, and even seemed a little rude. Chapter 1062. Yang Dingtian's heart trembled when he saw Jia's bold gaze. Could it be that Jia had already recognized him? Jia stared with her eyes wide open for a while before she closed them and began to sniff. Yang Dingtian must have given her a familiar scent, but it was very illusory, and she couldn't be sure. That was why she stared and sniffed with all her might. He wanted to catch that vague but familiar throbbing feeling. But this thing, when you really want to catch him, it will almost disappear without a trace. Madam Jia, why are you looking at me like that? Yang Dingtian asked slowly. Although it might not be a bad thing to reunite with Jia, it was better to avoid unnecessary trouble at this time. Jia still looked at Yang Dingtian with some suspicion. I just feel that the scent on your body is somewhat similar. While speaking, Jia stared at Yang Dingtian's eyes. She felt that the body and face could be changed, but the gaze could not be changed. However, this silver dragon mask could change even the eyes. Yang Dingtian frowned slightly, revealing the indifference and arrogance unique to the Silver Dragon Temple. He didn't ask who it was, but said indifferently, You think too much. Yes, Your Excellency. Jia finally lowered her head meekly and said, I heard that my son will become a student of the Silver Dragon Temple when he grows up. Is that right? Yang Dingtian nodded and said, Yes. Jia said, Then can you let my son meet Your Excellency? I really hope that he can receive your blessings. Yang Dingtian could see that Jia still hadn't given up. If the chief judge in front of him was a character in her imagination, he would definitely lose his composure when facing his own flesh and blood. Moreover, Jia was fully aware of how smart her baby was. When he was still in her stomach, her baby could feel Yang Dingtian's energy through the layer of her belly and feel the connection between them. It was even more so now. Jia might have felt that Yang Dingtian's scent was a little familiar because of their relationship as a man and a woman. In that case, her demigod son would definitely be able to recognize Yang Dingtian's energy aura. Demigod descendants never needed to look, they just needed to smell. Of course, Yang Dingtian wanted to see his child very much, but now was definitely not the time. If Yang Dingtian's identity was exposed, there might not be any problems. However, they had to seize the opportunity to get rid of Yongxi. Therefore, even though Yang Dingtian missed his baby very much, he had to endure it. However, he couldn't reject it completely. As the Silver Dragon Judge, it would be unreasonable for him to not pay attention to the descendants of demigods. Yang Dingtian frowned. Time is of the essence. I have to bring Yongxi to Silver Dragon Temple as soon as possible. Jia said directly. Please give me some time. Jia really didn't give up. Then, Jia immediately went out to find Monster's Wrath 2 and told him what she thought. Of course, she didn't say that she suspected that the Silver Dragon Judge was Yang Dingtian. She only said that she wanted the Silver Dragon Judge to take a look at her demigod son. Monster's Wrath 2 was confused. Is that necessary? Gia said seriously. Of course. Monster's Wrath 2 nodded. All right then, as soon as possible. Then, Gia led the elites of the Silvermoon clan to the Silver Palace as quickly as possible. Why did Gia have to tell whether the person in front of her was Yang Dingtian or not? Could it be that she wanted to be intimate with him? No, that was definitely not it. Although she had made up with Yang Dingtian to a certain extent, she still cared about him. However, in her heart, the Silvermoon race's interests were still paramount. The Western Paradise's interests were still paramount. If the Silver Dragon Judge in front of her was Yang Dingtian, it would mean that the Silvermoon clan had been fooled. It would mean that he couldn't represent the Silver Dragon Temple, which meant that the agreement between her father and Yang Dingtian would be invalid. If that was the case, then it would be a huge blow to the Silvermoon race and the Western Paradise's interests. It was a known fact that Yang Dingtian represented the humans. He wouldn't consider the benefits of the Little Western Paradise or the Silver Moon race. His only objective was to kill Yongxi. If that was the case, the consequences would be too serious and terrifying. It would mean that Monster's Wrath 2 had killed his most important ally and gained nothing. The entire situation of Little Western Paradise would be turned upside down. Therefore, Gia had to find out. Of course, she didn't tell Monster's Wrath 2 about her suspicions because he still had feelings for Yang Dingtian. Monster's Wrath 2 personally came to Yang Dingtian to express his opinion. He wanted his demigod grandson to be received by the Silver Dragon Judge and receive his blessings. Yang Dingtian couldn't refuse Monster's Wrath 2's request. Sure. Yang Dingtian smiled. Monster's Wrath 2 didn't leave immediately. Instead, he sat down and said, "There's something that has been bothering me for more than 1,000 years. It's also the biggest mystery in Little Western Paradise. I'd like to ask you to explain it to me." Yang Dingtian was confused, but he still smiled and said, "Please go ahead." Demon Fury 2 said, "Your Excellency should know that more than 1,000 years ago, the Demon Fury Great King led the allied forces of the three races and swept through the Little Western Paradise. He was almost about to completely wipe out the allied forces of the 6 races and completely unify the Little Western Paradise. However, overnight the Monsters King, my father Monster's Wrath I, and Monsters Li from the Silver Moon clan all died mysteriously. No one knows the reason. You know that the Monsters King was invincible in Little Western Paradise, and Monsters Li 2 was the second most powerful in the world. It's safe to say that no one in Little Western Paradise could kill the 3 of them, let alone kill them without anyone knowing. I've thought about it countless times and searched for it countless times over the past 1,000 years, but I couldn't find any clues at all. How do you think the Monsters King and the other 2 died?" Regarding this point, Yang Dingtian indeed had his own answer. After thinking for a while, Yang Dingtian said, "The Monsters King and the other 2 were probably killed." Monster's Wrath 2 was stunned by Yang Dingtian's direct answer. He said, "But no one in Little Western Paradise could kill the 3 of them, not to mention the human kingdom." Yang Dingtian said, "The murderer isn't from Little Western Paradise, or the human kingdom. Maybe it's from another tribe." Monster's Wrath 2's expression changed completely. It wasn't the Fox clan or the human kingdom. Then who could kill the 3 Monsters King and the other 2 without anyone knowing? Of course it was the Naga. However, weren't the Naga in this world completely extinct? However, Monster's Wrath 2 didn't say it out loud. For important people like him, it was impossible to get to the bottom of the matter. They just wanted to get the answer they wanted and wouldn't ask why. Then, Monster's Wrath 2 calmed down. Meanwhile, Yang Dingtian had also calmed down, but his heart was in a complete mess. Gia would soon bring her son, a demigod descendant, to see him. Gia might not recognize him, but the baby would definitely recognize him. Even though the baby had only seen Yang Dingtian when he was just born and was held by Yang Dingtian. A child's memory was very short. Now that they hadn't seen each other for almost 4 years, he had long forgotten. But the baby of a demigod descendant didn't rely on memory at all, nor did he rely on appearance to recognize him. They had an instinctive sense of smell and could immediately find someone who was related to them by blood. At that time, the baby was still in the belly. Could it recognize Yang Dingtian through the belly? Now, it was even easier. Once the baby recognized him, Yang Dingtian's identity would be exposed. Yang Dingtian could only keep thinking about what the consequences would be once his identity was exposed. Yongxi had already been ousted, and there was no turning back. This was something that couldn't be changed. But Yang Dingtian himself would be in trouble. Of course, it might not be that bad. After all, he could still represent the will of the High Priest Association. The Silver Dragon Temple was willing to endorse him. Sure enough, in less than an hour, Jia arrived outside with Bao Bao under the protection of the Silvermoon Clan's experts. Lord Judge, Jia wants to see you again. Jia's somewhat nervous voice sounded from outside. Please come in, Yang Dingtian said. Then, Jia walked in with a little boy in her arms and closed the door tightly. The experts of the Silvermoon Clan stood guard dozens of meters away, not allowing anyone to come close. Yang Dingtian saw his son at first glance. He should be almost 4 years old. He was really a beautiful little boy. In other words, this child was so beautiful that it made people feel suffocated. His snow-white skin was really like a piece of jade. His chubby little face was exquisite beyond compare. His big eyes were really like gems. Moreover, Jia had let him grow his hair long, which still had natural curls. His golden hair was soft and shiny. He was wearing a snow-white robe, which was really beautiful and adorable. There were scales on his neck, but they had changed from purple to silver. Also, the scales on his cute pointy ears were half golden and half silver. Unlike his elder brother, Yan Yi, who was quiet, this baby was very lively. His two big, gem-like eyes were always looking around, always filled with curiosity. Moreover, his little hand was holding a lollipop and eating it. When he saw his grandson, Demon Wrath II's face instantly melted. Every inch of his face and every inch of his eyes were filled with endless love and affection. Oh, my little darling, let Grandpa hug you, let Grandpa hug you. Demon Fury 2 took the baby and greedily sniffed the baby's tender fragrance. His expression was as if he was in heaven. As for Jia, her eyes were completely focused on Yang Dingtian's reaction. At this moment, Yang Dingtian completely did not hide the love in his eyes, which were fixed on the baby's face. Although the baby was being carried by Demon Fury 2, he was still eating his lollipop. His big eyes were fixed on Yang Dingtian, staring at him without blinking. Jia went forward and said, "Baby, let Uncle Head Judge hug you, okay?" Jia carried the baby over and then went in front of Yang Dingtian. "Mr. Head Judge, do you want to hug him?" Jia asked. "Of course." Yang Dingtian was already prepared to be exposed, and he was not angry at all. This was his own flesh and blood. Being recognized by him should be a happy thing. Then, Yang Dingtian took the baby and gently sniffed the baby's pleasant smell. It was not just one child. He already had many children, but he did not have enough time to hug each of them. In the past half a year, not to mention hugging each child, even meeting each one of them was a luxury. Holding the baby, Yang Dingtian lovingly kissed the baby's hair and cheeks. Jia went forward and said, "Baby, do you know this uncle?" As soon as she said that, Demon Fury's expression changed drastically, and he stared at Yang Dingtian. He was very smart, and he immediately thought of a possibility from Jia's question. If that was the case, and the person in front of him was Yang Dingtian, then the consequences would be too terrible. It meant that Yang Dingtian had pretended to be the Silver Dragon Head Judge and used him to get rid of Yongxi. Yongxi could not represent the Silver Dragon Temple at all, and the negotiations with him were all fake. It meant that he had betrayed Yongxi and got rid of his most important ally. In the end, he gained nothing, and it would even bring about a terrible situation to Little Western Paradise. In an instant, a powerful aura burst out, covering every corner of the space. A murderous intent surged in his heart. If it was really Yang Dingtian, he would really want to kill him. Earlier, when Yang Yi hugged Yang Dingtian, he immediately recognized him. The baby in front of him was lying in Yang Dingtian's arms and continuing to eat candy. "Good boy, do you know this uncle?" Jia asked. The baby shook his head and said, "I don't know him, but I like him." His voice was very tender, and every word seemed to be full of jumping and liveliness. Hearing this voice, Yang Dingtian felt like he was melting. However, he found it strange that the baby of a demigod descendant could easily smell the aura on him. The smell of blood connection could be smelled. As soon as the baby said that, Jia was stunned, and then she breathed a sigh of relief. As for Demon Fury too, his pale and colorless face immediately regained its color, and the murderous aura on him disappeared completely. Yang Dingtian asked, "What's the baby's name?" Jia said, "Yao Yang." "This name?" "Okay," he accepted it. Jia took Yao Yang baby and said, "Okay, we're going home." When Yao Yang baby was carried away by his mother, he suddenly winked mischievously at Yang Dingtian, and then mouthed, "Daddy!" He did not shout out loud, and no one else saw him. However, Yang Dingtian almost jumped up. This son of his was really heaven-defying. After Jia walked out, Yang Dingtian said to Demon Fury 2, "Okay, it's about time. We should send Yongxi on his way." Demon Fury 2's eyes were filled with murderous intent. "Yes, it's time to send him on his way." Chapter 1063. The 9 patriarchs did not follow Yang Dingtian to Mount Buzhou. Because after Yongxi seized the position, the authority of the entire Little Western Paradise immediately fell into a chaotic situation. Especially Indu, it was like a group of dragons without a leader. However, Indu was indeed worthy of being the capital for thousands of years. Even after hearing that Yongxi had stepped down, not only did the people not panic, even the upper echelons of the aristocrats were not affected. Even the civil and military officials of Indu were doing their own jobs. After all, this mature system had been running for thousands of years. Although it was rare for a chairman to step down, it was not unheard of. Just a few years ago, Chairman Yao Qi had died suddenly, and there was no chaos in Indu. In short, Little Western Paradise was a world with a very rigid hierarchy. The power of inertia and order was very strong. Just like the Ning clan in the extreme south. Even after their master had died for a long time, there was no chaos. Everyone was still doing their jobs. Moreover, the chairman was not the emperor. However, in order to protect the safety of his daughter and grandson, Yao Nu too left all the experts in his clan in Indu. Among the 9 clans, the Sky Fire clan could only wait to be slaughtered. After Yao Nu Tu and Yao Li Tu joined hands, the only one who could be considered a match for them was the Jina clan. Therefore, they could not overturn the heavens. There were a total of 4 patriarchs who followed Yang Dingtian to escort Yongxi to Mount Buzhou. They were Yao Nu Tu, Yao Li Tu, Patriarch Jina, and Giant being Patriarch. Patriarch Jina was the father of Yao Li and Yao Zi. He was now Yao Nu Tu's only opponent. Naturally, he could not stay in Indu to stir up trouble. As for Giant being Patriarch Yao Ju Tu, he was just here to join in the fun. Originally, only the 3 patriarchs were escorting Yongxi to Mount Buzhou. However, Yao Ju Tu felt that it was embarrassing for him to not be in the circle of big shots and insisted to come along. Facing such an unreasonable person, Yao Nu Tu had no choice and agreed to come along. Thus, Yang Dingtian, the 4 clan leaders, the 8 punishers, and several dozen experts escorted Yongxi to Mount Buzhou. Along the way, Yang Dingtian was more or less worried. He knew that Yongxi wouldn't be doing nothing for the past few years. There must be a secret force that was loyal to him. Of course, Demon Rage 2 was even clearer about this. However, he wasn't worried at all because there were more than a dozen martial saints in this group. There was probably no power in Little Western Paradise that could directly take Yongxi away. Moreover, it would be even better if someone came to rob them. They could just kill them on the way. Demon's Wrath too was even plotting in his heart whether or not he should impersonate someone to kidnap Yongxi. Then, he would take the opportunity to kill him midway. But in the end, Demon Rage 2 gave up on this idea. Reaching Mount Bujo proved that this Silver Dragon Inquisitor was more important, and it was more important to enter the real negotiations with the Silver Dragon Temple. After only 1 day and 1 night, they arrived at the border between Mount Bujo and Little Western Paradise. At the border, a huge castle stood. However, it only looked like an energy shadow. It couldn't be touched. Mount Bujo and Little Western Paradise weren't in the same energy environment. There was an energy barrier between them that no one could pass through. Of course, the surface of the castle could be seen clearly. There were flags, punishers, and densely packed warriors of the Silver Dragon Temple. Yang Dingtian came to the gate of the castle. He raised the token in his hand and said, "Open the gate!" "Yes." Immediately, 4 punishers came down from the gate. The gate was also an energy barrier, so it looked half-transparent. The 4 punishers came to the gate and knelt in front of it. "Welcome, Lord Inquisitor." Seeing this, Demon Rage 2 let out a long sigh of relief. This Silver Dragon Inquisitor was real. This castle was the only armed force of the Silver Dragon Temple. These punishers were very arrogant and didn't care about anyone. Even if the chairman of Little Western Paradise came, they wouldn't care. Now, they were kneeling to welcome him. This was the real Silver Dragon Inquisitor. Then, the 4 Inquisitors started to open the energy gate of the castle. The so-called energy gate was a kind of energy array that changed the energy barrier's attribute. It changed from impassable to passable. The 4 head Inquisitors were busy with their work. The huge energy array started to operate. When they started to change the energy barrier at the gate would melt and become transparent. However, as the energy array started to operate, the color of the gate became darker and darker. Finally, it became completely blood red. Moreover, the entire energy barrier started to become extremely unstable. Finally, the entire castle started to shake. Tremble. Yang Dingtian was shocked. Demon Rage 2 was shocked. All the punishers were shocked. The castle shook more and more violently. It was as if it would collapse at any time. Yang Dingtian shouted, "Stop!" Then, the 4 punishers inside stopped. Suddenly, the blood-red color faded, and the energy barrier returned to normal. The 4 punishers came forward and knelt. "Lord Inquisitor, I don't know why, but the energy gate can't be opened." Yang Dingtian's heart skipped a beat. Demon Rage 2 looked at Yang Dingtian in shock. This could kill someone. This could really kill someone. Once the Silver Dragon Temple was completely isolated from the Little Western Paradise, it would be nothing. At this moment, Yongxi suddenly laughed. "The so-called Lord Inquisitor can't even open the energy gate. No one can enter the Little Western Paradise from Bujo Mountain. Then how did you come here?" Everyone's face was filled with shock. Yongxi continued, "This can only prove one thing. You're not the Silver Dragon Inquisitor. You're a fake Inquisitor to sow discord between Indu and the 9 great tribes. You have an ulterior motive." This was nonsense. The punishers in the castle already proved that he was the Silver Dragon Inquisitor. Yongxi then said to Demon Rage 2, "Brother Rage, you're the cornerstone of the Little Western Paradise. At this time, you must become the pillar of the entire world." Demon Rage 2 sneered at Yongxi. "What do you mean? Yongxi, you still want to make a comeback at this time? Dream on. Let alone the fact that this person is the Silver Dragon Inquisitor, even if he isn't, you can't make a comeback. Everyone will push you down. You've already lost face, and you can't make up for it." Yongxi said. "Brother Rage, I know that my downfall is a foregone conclusion. Don't worry, I don't have to be the acting chairman. However, the interests of the Little Western Paradise must be protected. You also know that there's a secret force that's loyal to me. We can still be allies, and we can still push Jia to the position of chairman. The fact that the Silver Dragon Temple is completely isolated from the Little Western Paradise is only known by those of us here. I can fake my death and disappear completely, changing my name to serve Brother Rage. As for this so-called Silver Dragon Inquisitor, I'll kill him all. Demon Rage 2 immediately laughed loudly and said, Yongshi, are you joking? Even if we can't enter the Buzhou Mountain, we can still kill you here and say that it's the official punishment. As for this energy gate being isolated, it should be your doing. No wonder you're so fearless. However, since it can be isolated, it can also be opened. The smile on Yongshi's face disappeared, and he waved his hand. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Suddenly, dozens of black figures flashed and flew over. All of them were covered by black cloaks. That black figure said slowly in a hoarse voice, Release Chairman Yongshi. Demon Rage 2 frowned. This was the legendary secret force that was loyal to Yongshi. It was indeed very powerful. Yongshi said, Brother Rage, I know that this Inquisitor must have had a very high-level negotiation with you. There must be huge benefits, which is why you betrayed me. These benefits should be brought by the Silver Dragon Temple, right? But now that the Silver Dragon Temple has been cut off, the benefits we discussed before shouldn't count. Hearing this, Demon Rage 2's expression changed. Indeed, if it was completely isolated, then even the Silver Dragon Temple would disappear from the Little Western Paradise. Then there was no need to talk about cooperation or business. Those huge benefits would naturally be gone. Yongshi said in a low voice. However, we can still work together. My force is very powerful. If you and I work together, we can be invincible in the Little Western Paradise. His voice directly condensed and drilled into Demon Rage 2's ears. Demon Rage 2 said in a low voice. But I don't trust you, Yongshi. Yongshi said. I'm always by your side. I can't escape. My life is always in your hands. That's fine, right? I only want our cooperation. Demon Rage 2 said in a low voice. What do you want? Tell me clearly. Yongshi said in a low voice. I'm not interested in anything in the Little Western Paradise. What I want is to let the Little Western Paradise invade the human countries and eliminate Yang Dingtian. Therefore, our interests don't conflict. We can work together. Demon Rage 2's heart trembled. Looking at the dozens of black figures in front of him, this force was indeed tempting. If the Silver Dragon Temple was really completely isolated, then the previous business and negotiations really didn't count. Yongshi's eyes flashed with a cunning and demonic light, and he said in a low voice, Trust me, this force can only be controlled by me. Kill the head judge in front of you and pretend that nothing happened. You can continue to control the Little Western Paradise, and this force in my hands will be completely at your disposal. How about it? There are more than 20 saint-level experts. The black figure said slowly. Release Yongshi, or we'll fight. At this time, Yang Dingtian stared at the black figure leader and said slowly, Mi Zhu, you're from the Silent Clan, the former head judge of the Silver Dragon Clan, and the husband of Speaker Neru. When did you become Yongshi's lackey? When these words came out, everyone was shocked. Chapter 1064. Didn't Neru's husband, the Silent Clan member who had been seduced and fallen, commit suicide? Why was he still alive now? Moreover, he had colluded with Yongshi? How was this possible? How pure were the Silent Clan? What kind of noble sentiment was this? How could they be like this? How did Yang Dingtian know? After Yang Dingtian finished speaking, everyone present fell into silence. Then they stared at Yang Dingtian, at the Black Shadow Leader. The Black Shadow Leader's body suddenly trembled, and then his entire body instinctively shrank as if he wanted to hide himself in the darkness. Yang Dingtian continued, Your Excellency Mi Zhu, a long time ago, you were a very noble and wise Silent Clan member. In the High Priest Association, your research project was the most profound dark void energy. In your book, it was clearly written that all the energy of the Demon Fox Clan and the Silent Clan came from the dark void. And the fallen silver dragon that gave birth to the Demon Fox Clan also roamed the dark void, as if it was absorbing endless energy from there. Everyone was silent, waiting for Yang Dingtian's description. Yang Dingtian continued, Then, in your research diary, it was written at the end. In order to carry out the deepest research, you had to personally search for these dark voids, analyze them, and experience them personally. So, you left the Silver Dragon Temple and entered the Little Western Paradise. Looking at the Black Shadow Leader, Yang Dingtian said, "Everything that follows is my guess. If I'm wrong, please advise me." The Black Shadow Leader nodded. Yang Dingtian said, "In the Forbidden Continent's illusion realm in the Skull Hall, every epoch is separated by a long dark void. At that time, there was nothing in the entire world, only a void. Then, there were faint figures of fallen black dragons and fallen silver dragons roaming around. And the Little Western Paradise, although it was a product on the verge of collapse after Nirvana, it was still a normal world, so there was no dark void for you to study. You roamed for a very, very long time until you suddenly discovered that one day, a dark crack actually appeared in the Little Western Paradise. It was clearly land, but it suddenly disappeared and turned into a terrifying void. Although this was not a pure dark void, it was very similar. So you began to study the dark crack, but you were no match for the power of the dark crack, you were contaminated." After Yang Dingtian finished speaking, the Black Shadow Leader suddenly trembled. "Yang Dingtian, it seems that I was right. At that time, you were still a very noble Silent Clan member. You felt that you had been contaminated, you were afraid of degeneration. So, you frantically ran away. Then you met Neru. Originally, the Silent Tribe had no desires at all. However, your soul has been polluted, and a flaw has appeared in your soul that has no desires and desires. You were also attracted to Neru, so the two of you were together. If you continued like this, it might be a good thing. There was nothing wrong with living a normal life." At this time, the Black Shadow Leader's entire body was already trembling. "Yang Dingtian, but you denied everything about yourself. You felt that living together with Neru was the result of contamination. Why did you stop yourself from completely degenerating? You chose to commit suicide, but you were contaminated after all. Originally you were fearless, but you began to be greedy for life and afraid of death. Of course, there was nothing wrong with this. Every life should be afraid of death. Then you began to roam the Little Western Paradise like a lonely ghost. And Neru, thinking that you were dead, spent countless days and nights in pain and guilt. Until your daughter, Wu Yu, grew up, there was news of her suicide. At this point, the Black Shadow Leader had completely collapsed. The energy in his body was in a very chaotic state. Yang Dingtian, at this time, you were still wandering in this world, resisting the invasion of the dark void energy on your soul. You were a strong person, and you fought desperately to overcome it. However, the news of Neru's death completely defeated you, causing your will to completely collapse. From then on, you were completely captured by the dark energy. Then, day after day, you searched for the dark cracks in the entire world. However, you were no longer doing it for research, but to devour. You were addicted to it. From then on, everything you lived was to devour the energy of the dark cracks. Then, you met many of your kind. These people were all exiles of the Silver Dragon Temple. They had committed various mistakes, so they were completely exiled. No matter what the reason was, you gathered together and became their leader. Yang Dingtian thought as he spoke. Looking at the other party's reaction, until now, he should have guessed correctly. Yang Dingtian continued. Although you wandered the world, you didn't do any evil. It was as if you were invisible. You led them, madly searching for the dark cracks, madly devouring its energy. Because you specialized in the study of the dark cracks, only you knew how to devour this energy. Just like that, day after day, year after year. Although you were like lonely ghosts, you didn't cause any harm to the world. Until one day, you and Yongxi met. I don't know how you met, but in short, he had the void-splitting fire, which could purify the dark cracks and make your entire body enter the dark cracks. That way, the dark energy you devoured would be much more, and the pleasure it brought would be much stronger. At this time, even Yongxi's expression had completely changed. Yang Dingtian. So, you and Yongxi formed a loose alliance. You didn't obey him, or swear loyalty to him, but only needed his void-splitting fire to make you completely enter the dark cracks. Yang Dingtian thought as he spoke. Finally, many of the mysteries in his mind were revealed as he explained. For example, no one in the Little Western Paradise knew about the opening time of the dark cracks. This was a high-level secret of the Silver Dragon Temple, and Yongxi couldn't know. Moreover, even the records of the Silver Dragon Temple about the dark cracks were all from Miju's research and were incomplete. Also, the silent race didn't like women at all. In fact, when it came to the desires of men and women, they had almost been castrated from the depths of their souls. Although Nera was very beautiful, if the other party didn't even have the concept of beauty, then what was the difference between a beautiful woman and a white bone? Also, Miju committed suicide, but his body couldn't be found and so on. Then, Yang Dingtian read all his information in the High Priest Association. Finally, when the Shadow Leader appeared, Yang Dingtian smelled a strong energy aura. This energy aura was very familiar, but also very strange. Yang Dingtian couldn't describe what he felt. In short, this energy was even more familiar than the void crack flame and the million spirit demon fire, but he couldn't remember what it was. Then, Yang Dingtian connected a series of clues and carried out a bold fantasy, calling out Miju's name. And the other party's reaction proved that this idea was correct. In a mess, he found the end of the thread, and the whole thing was pulled out smoothly. Sir Yongxi, am I right? Yang Dingtian asked slowly. Yongxi clapped hard and said, You're right, very right. I'm really amazed. But this is meaningless. His Excellency Mi Zhu and his people are now completely intoxicated by the energy of the dark crevice. Only I can satisfy them fully. Therefore, our relationship is inseparable. If I die in your hands, this group of people will go crazy and kill all of you. Yongxi raised his head and said, You're right. These people are all exiled from the Silver Dragon Temple. The weakest among them is a peak half-saint, and there are more than 20 saint experts. This is the strongest martial force in Little Western Paradise. The Shadow Spear race can't block it, the Silver Dragon race can't block it, and the Silver Moon race can't block it. Yongli said coldly. But if the whole Little Western Paradise is united, they can block it. Yongxi laughed and said, You're right, but can they be united? You 4 patriarchs, plus the experts you brought, plus the punishers, there are only a dozen saint experts. You think this is enough, but I have more than 20 saint experts and dozens of peak half-saints. If they go all out, you'll probably all die. When these words came out, the expressions of Yongxi too and the others changed dramatically. If it was a rational martial force, Yongxi too wouldn't be afraid. A dozen saint experts against 20 saint experts. Although they would lose, they wouldn't be able to fight. The losses on both sides were too great. However, the other side had completely lost their rationality. They were crazy devils who were addicted. They weren't afraid of death at all. In order to satisfy their addiction by devouring the energy of the dark crack, they were willing to pay the price with their lives, even if it was just a mouthful. There was no way to negotiate. Moreover, they couldn't kill Yongxi now. Because if Yongxi died, this group of people would go completely crazy and kill people. Yongxi laughed and said, Brother Yongxi, now that we've made things clear, the situation will be simpler, right? Yongxi looked at Yang Dingtian, and his eyes became cold and cruel. He said, It's very simple to make a choice now. You can either cooperate with me and kill this Silver Dragon Judge and the Punishers. Then, this powerful dark energy will be yours to use. I only need a little bit to invade the human countries. Or, we can all die together. You know, this group of addicts can't be negotiated. In the end, Yongxi said word by word. Yongxi too, make your choice. Either the Silver Dragon Judge dies, or we die together. When these words came out, the 8 punishers immediately surrounded Yang Dingtian to protect him. Everyone was waiting for Yongxi too's choice. Chapter 1065. Without waiting for Monster Rage 2 to make a decision, Monster Li Tu immediately brought his people to Yang Dingtian. This person was still so stubborn. And Monster Giant Tu, after a little hesitation, also stood beside Monster Li Tu. Although the Giant Being clan leader hated Yao Li very much, he wouldn't go back on his word and get rich. Patriarch Gina narrowed his eyes and said to Monster Rage Tu, "Brother Rage, I advise you to think twice." After saying that, Patriarch Gina took half a step away from Yang Dingtian, showing his attitude. Monster Rage Tu didn't immediately make a decision, but still looked at Yang Dingtian. The Black Shadow leader Miju said slowly, "Lord Judge, I don't know which colleague you are in the High Priest Association, but please let Yongxi go, or we will really kill." Yang Dingtian said, "Miju, I'll tell you two things before you make a decision." "How about it?" The Black Shadow leader Miju said. "Please speak." Yang Dingtian said, "Firstly, Madame Neru isn't dead. She is in the High Priest Association and has replaced your position. She has been atoning for her sins for the past few hundred years. Therefore, the two of you can reunite. Also, your daughter, Wu, and the three of you can enjoy the happiness of a family reunion." Yongxi's expression changed. "Miju, don't believe him. Neru is already dead. I am Neru's disciple, and I saw her corpse with my own eyes. This person is just talking nonsense." Yang Dingtian directly threw a recording jade over. Miju took it and inserted his internal force. Immediately, he saw the familiar face of his lover again. This time, the content of the recording jade was Neru calling on the Little Western Paradise to deprive Yongxi of his power. Although Neru wasn't talking to him, her every movement and expression was so beautiful. Miju's figure trembled violently again, and his whole person fell into a short period of confusion. It was like a beautiful memory from a long time ago, gradually welling up in his mind. In an instant, the terrifying dark aura emitted from his body weakened. Yongxi sneered and said, "Miju, you weren't able to be together in the past, but do you think it's possible now? And do you think she'll still fall in love with you if she sees you like this?" Miju shuddered, then quickly calmed down. His energy aura once again became dark and grim. He slowly said, "For telling me this, but it's already too late. It was better to leave these beautiful things in the depths of his memory. There's only one thing I want now, and I believe you know what it is." Yang Dingtian felt a chill in his heart. This person had fallen too deeply, and there was no way to save him. It was just like certain drugs on Earth. One would die if they got into contact with them. It was impossible to quit even if one wanted to. Yang Dingtian, "Then it seems that my second piece of information is also useless, right?" Miju said, "Tell me about it." Yang Dingtian said, "I can help you return to the past. I can even help you return to the Silver Dragon Temple." Miju shook his head and said, "Now that I'm free, it's impossible for me to return. So, this piece of information is inferior to the previous one." Then Miju said, "So are you done? If you're done, then release Yongxi. Otherwise, I'm going to kill him." Yongxi said to Monster Rage Tu, "Brother Rage, it seems that the chief judge you placed high hopes on didn't give you anything. So, you should make a choice. Kill him. Consider it a pledge of allegiance." Monster Rage Tu's gaze fell on Yang Dingtian, and he slowly closed his eyes. Yongxi said, "I'm going to start the countdown. Brother Rage, if you still haven't made your move, Miju's Shadow Wanderers will make their move. 3, 2. The dozens of Shadow Wanderers led by Miju all drew their weapons. Yang Dingtian's Punishers, Monster Li Tu, and Monster Giant Tu's subordinates all drew their weapons. As long as Yongxi counted to 1, the battle would begin. 1. Yongxi's countdown ended. Swoosh! Monster Rage 2 suddenly drew his sword. However, he did not attack Yang Dingtian. Instead, he formed a formation with Monster Li 2. Whoosh 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 whoosh. The two groups of martial artists charged at each other ferociously and were about to collide into each other. Whoosh! Suddenly, a black and white flame appeared in Yang Dingtian's palm. This flame, whether it was Miju or Yongxi, was extremely familiar with it. It was the void-splitting fire! It was the void-splitting fire! Suddenly, everything in the field came to an abrupt halt. As if time had stopped, all the battle stopped. How could this be? How could this chief judge have the void-splitting fire? In this world, there were only 3 known people who had the void-splitting fire: Yongxi, Dongli, and Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian's possession of the void-splitting fire was originally a secret. However, with the return of the fox demons in Little Western Paradise, it was no longer a secret. Suddenly, Yongxi and Monster Rage 2 thought of a terrible fact at the same time. Then, Yongxi was about to scream. Yang Dingtian Xianqi suddenly suppressed Yongxi's body, and he could not make a sound. Although Yongxi was the chairman, he was mainly learning literature and politics from Nehru. In terms of martial arts, he was only average. Currently, his cultivation was only at the half-step saint level. Everyone knew the secret, but they could not say it out loud. Yang Dingtian was really unwilling to show the void-splitting fire unless he had no other choice. It basically meant that his identity would be exposed. But so far, he had chosen the lesser of 2 dangers. Compared to the battle in front of him, or the betrayal of Monster Rage 2, the danger of his identity being exposed was much smaller. Mijou stared at Yang Dingtian's void-splitting fire. His breathing suddenly became rapid, and he said, You and I can cooperate and enter into an alliance at a specific time? Yang Dingtian nodded. Swear, Mijou said. Swear on Mount Buzhou. I swear, Yang Dingtian said. My void-splitting fire can serve Mijou and the other Dark Wanderers. Otherwise I will be expelled from Mount Buzhou and walk with the Dark Wanderers. This oath did not sound like a good one, but it should be the most vicious oath for the members of the High Priest Association. Okay, Mijou said. I leave Yongxi to you. I don't care if he lives or dies. Yongxi spat out a mouthful of blood as if he was struck by lightning. These Dark Wanderers who were exiled from Mount Buzhou were really decisive. They could betray him at any moment. Yang Dingtian said. Then, can you open the energy gate to enter Mount Buzhou? Of course, Mijou said. Whoosh! Whoosh! Instantly, dozens of black figures disappeared from their original positions and flew in all directions. It turned out that they had modified the energy at the end of Little Western Paradise, which changed the energy of the energy barrier and blocked the energy gate. Sure enough, only the people of the Silver Dragon Temple could block the energy gate. At this moment, Monster Rage 2's expression had completely changed. He waved at Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian handed Yongxi to the 8 punishers and walked over. When he was a few hundred meters away, Monster Rage 2 said in a low voice, Yang Dingtian, is it really you? Yang Dingtian said in a low voice. It's me. Immediately, Monster Rage 2 trembled and twitched all over. He had been cunning and smart his whole life, but he had fallen into the hands of his cheap son-in-law. This was really... He was actually used by him to get rid of his greatest ally, Yongxi. Then, why doesn't Yang Yang recognize you? Monster Rage 2 asked. Yang Dingtian said. Bao Bao recognized me, but he pretended not to. He mouthed the words daddy. Little favoritism, I'm so angry. I doted on him so much. Demon Rage 2 immediately cried out in anger. What his precious grandson had done was truly a fatal blow to his heart. After a long time, Monster Rage 2 calmed down and said, Then, does everything we talked about count? Yang Dingtian looked at Demon Fury 2 and spoke word by word. I will keep my word. Monster Rage 2 said. Is your silver dragon judge real or fake? Of course. Yang Dingtian said. The spiritual teacher of the High Priest Association is the ancient Shiwu Piaoyan, and I am the only successor of Mr. Shiwu Piaoyan. Monster Rage 2 said. Yongxi has already sealed the gate of the Skull Temple. How can you enter? Yang Dingtian said. The Greater Space Technique. I can jump through space. Suddenly, Monster Rage 2 was speechless. The Greater Space Technique should be the pinnacle of the martial arts civilization in the Chaos world. It should be the jewel on the crown of martial arts. Yang Dingtian actually knew it? Taking a deep breath, Monster Rage 2 said. Since that's the case, let's use the reason that the energy gate is closed to kill Yongxi right here to avoid any more trouble. Yang Dingtian said. Of course, but I promised Madame Fire Dance that I would bring Yongxi to Mount Buzhou to verify his identity. Mount Buzhou still values some things very much. She gave the position of Silver Dragon Judge to me as if it was child's play. I can't tarnish it. Monster Rage 2 stared at Yang Dingtian for a long time and said, All right, but after Yongli knows your identity, he won't let you go. Yang Dingtian said. Therefore, it is even more important for us to give Mr. Yao Li an explanation. Yongli was a hero with an iron will. He could be used but could not be bullied. Soon, Mi Zhu and the other Dark Wanderers had restored the energy gate. A completely transparent energy layer appeared. Yongli, remember your oath. Goodbye. Mi Zhu said. Yang Dingtian said. Yongli, are you not going to enter Mount Buzhou? Mi Zhu trembled and said. We are not qualified. Then, he threw a black flame-like crystal to Yang Dingtian. If there's anything, just crush this crystal and send out a signal. We will rush to your side as soon as possible. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Then, he led all the Dark Wanderers and disappeared without a trace. Yang Dingtian led the Punishers and the 4 Patriarchs through the energy gate and entered Mount Buzhou. Chapter 1066. After entering the castle, Yang Dingtian and the others flew to Mount Buzhou. At this time, the 8 Punishers and the 4 Patriarchs were all waiting in the castle. Even Yongxi Wentian was imprisoned in the castle's energy formation. This was because the High Priest Association basically refused to allow anyone to visit. Yang Dingtian took out the token and opened the gate of the High Priest Association. At this time, he noticed that there was really a carved silver dragon on the gate. Then, there were 4 big words written on it, Silver Dragon Temple. However, the carving of the silver dragon was very ordinary. As for the words Silver Dragon Temple, they were carved with a knife. Can you people from the High Priest Association be more serious? Fortunately, the 4 Patriarchs didn't come in. Otherwise, their worldview would be ruined. Demon Rage 2 cursed in his heart. Damn it, this is the so-called Silver Dragon Temple? It can't even be compared to a village chief's cave. This is the belief of the entire Little Western Paradise. Cooperating with you is a complete scam. Yang Dingtian entered the hall and found that it wasn't empty. There were actually 4 people sitting inside. One was Fire Dance, one was the president of the High Priest Association, Su Yan, and 2 other unfamiliar priests, 1 male and 1 female. They were all skinny. One was from the Silent race, and the other was from the Fox race. They were so skinny, it was obvious that they were spirit type. Fire Dance very casually gave Yang Dingtian the Buzhou Mountain token, the Silver Dragon Judge, and the arrest and investigation order. But in reality, she was still very nervous. Not long after Yang Dingtian left, she woke up Su Yan and told him everything. Su Yan was helpless. You've already done it, and now you're asking for my opinion. Isn't this acting first and reporting later? However, since Fire Dance had already done so, there was nothing Su Yan could do about it. He could only accept it. So, the 4 of them sat in the hall and waited for the result. They hoped that there would be a smooth result. They hoped that there wouldn't be a war. If there was a war, it would be troublesome. There would be countless casualties. The High Priest Association's research would be completely stopped. So, the 4 of them waited here. When Yang Dingtian entered, Fire Dance immediately stood up and asked, What's the result? Yang Dingtian bowed and said, Everything went smoothly. Immediately, not only Hu Wu, but Su Yan also heaved a sigh of relief. The matter this time was really like hitting a wolf with a hemp stick. Little Western Paradise was afraid of Mount Buzhou. Mount Buzhou wasn't afraid of Little Western Paradise either. Everything went smoothly. That was a pretty good result. Hence, Yang Dingtian narrated the entire process once again. Fire Dance and Su Yan were shocked. Yang Dingtian had chosen the most outstanding path to complete this quest. This was truly a case of using four tails to deal with 1,000 caddies. However, at the end of the day, Fire Dance's initial plan was correct. Finding Yaoli first would make everything easier. Yang Dingtian then bowed and said, "This disciple is bold to negotiate with Demon's Wrath too and agree to many things." Fire Dance thought for a moment before saying, "In short, it's three things, right? First, let Nera be the acting speaker, and elect Jia as speaker in the next session. Second, let the demigod descendant Yao Yang study in the High Priest Association when he grows up. Third, after Jia's term as speaker ends, make Jia the saintess, right?" Yang Dingtian said. "Yes." Fire Dance said. "These three things are nothing. We can't interfere with Nera's matter. Letting the demigod descendant study in the Silver Dragon Temple is our own will. As for making Jia the saintess in name, she doesn't need to enter the Silver Dragon Temple. It's simple." Yang Dingtian said. "Don't you care that Demon's Wrath too is using the name of the Silver Dragon Temple to unify Little Western Paradise?" Fire Dance shook her head and said, "Whether Little Western Paradise is unified or divided has nothing to do with Mount Buzhou. We don't care." Yang Dingtian said, "There's one more thing that's very important. However, it has nothing to do with eternal lodging." Fire Dance said. "Speak." Yang Dingtian said. "Priest Mi Zhu really didn't die. He was corrupted when he was studying the dark void energy. At this moment, he's leading the priests exiled by the Silver Dragon Temple to wander the entire Little Western Paradise. The only thing they can do is wait for the dark crack to open and then devour the energy there. They're completely addicted and can't stop. It's because of this that they colluded with Eternal Lodging. Eternal Lodging's void fire can allow them to enter the depths of the dark crack. As for me, in order to stop Mi Zhu from killing us for eternal life wills the heavens, I have already promised him that my void-rending flame will serve them." Immediately, Su Yan and Fire Dance fell silent. Although the Silver Dragon Temple rarely exiled members, as long as you became a member of the High Priest Association, you could do whatever you wanted. Then no matter what you do inside, whether it's slacking off or dating, it doesn't matter. There were only two rules that couldn't be violated. The first rule was to taint the power of Little Western Paradise. The second rule was to conduct evil research and destroy the entire world. As long as one violated these two rules, they would be exiled. In the worst case, they would even be executed. Su Yan and Fire Dance closed their eyes in silence for a long time. They couldn't think of a way to deal with this group of dark wanderers. Whether it was to capture or execute them, they were helpless. Because this martial Dao power was too strong. For thousands of years, the priests exiled by the High Priest Association had gathered by Mi Zhu's side. Su Yan sighed and said, "Let's do this for now. We'll discuss this group of wanderers later." Just this sentence alone showed Su Yan's unwillingness to meddle in other people's business. "All right, then let's go to the castle and deal with Eternal Lodging," Fire Dance said. Then, the four of them left Buzhou Mountain and flew to the border castle. Seeing the president of the High Priest Association, Su Yan, everyone knelt down. "Greetings, Temple Master!" Not only the punishers, but even the four patriarchs knelt down. Su Yan's reputation among the Little Western Paradise's nobles was very long and lofty. This was because he was almost as old as the Little Western Paradise. When the Fox Demon clan was still a group of foxes, he was already an intelligent and powerful silent clan. Therefore, he was almost an ancestor. Whether it was Monster Fury 2 or Monster Li 2, they had all heard of his legend. He could be considered one of the founders of the Little Western Paradise's civilization. Su Yan sat down and nodded. "Shadow Spear Clan's Monster Fury 2. Yes, disciple is here." Monster Fury 2 kowtowed to the ground. Su Yan said, "Everything that the Silver Dragon Inquisitor negotiated with you is the will of the Silver Dragon Temple. It's valid." "Yes, thank you, Ancestor." Monster Fury pressed his forehead against the ground. Su Yan said, "Then, let's begin the identification of Eternal Lodging's true body." Immediately, the two spiritual-type priests beside him bowed and said, "Yes." At this time, Eternal Lodging had already woken up. Although he was trapped in the energy formation, he had regained the ability to speak. Yang Dingtian, don't pretend to be some silver dragon inquisitor. I know it's you, Eternal Lodging said sternly. You took advantage of Monster Li's stupidity and Monster Fury 2's greed to kick me off the stage. You used them to take revenge. As expected, Yao Li's expression changed when he heard this statement. His gaze shot towards Yang Dingtian like lightning. Fire Dance said indifferently. Yang Dingtian is the only direct disciple of Shi Wupian. He's also a member of the High Priest Association and the Silver Dragon Temple. He's a Silver Dragon Inquisitor who was appointed by us. Capturing you is the will of the Silver Dragon Temple. What does it have to do with his identity? As soon as these words came out, Eternal Shi Wentian was speechless. If the Silver Dragon Temple was willing to endorse Yang Dingtian, then it was useless. They couldn't stop Yang Dingtian from entering the High Priest Association just because he was human. There was no such thing. Eternal Lodging's gaze shifted. He sneered. Don't think I don't know that you've been conquered by Yang Dingtian. He can make fox females go into heat. He uses that thing to travel the world. He's satisfied with you, so you're obedient. Eternal Lodging knew that begging for mercy was useless at this time, so he used the most vicious words to attack. He hoped that the High Priest Association would avoid suspicion and not support Yang Dingtian. But who knew what Fire Dance's response would be? Oh. A faint oh. She didn't even bother to deny it. It was this oh that made the four patriarchs admire her. As expected of the Silver Dragon Temple's High Priest, she didn't care about such insults and attacks. Let's begin, said Su Yan. Immediately, two spiritual-type priests stepped forward. There was no formation at all. There were no crystals. Two pairs of eyes stared directly at Eternal Lodging. Then, they suddenly trembled. In an instant, everything around them suddenly turned into complete darkness and void. Of course, this wasn't real darkness. Everything around them had entered a spiritual illusion. Regardless of whether they refused or agreed, everyone present had entered the illusion of the two spiritual-type priests. The entire world turned dark. Only a ray of light suddenly entered Eternal Lodging's eyes. He tried his best to resist, but he didn't have the ability to do so. The powerful spiritual power directly crushed his will and entered the depths of his brain. It dug out his memories from 200 years ago. The scene of this memory suddenly shot out from his eyes and was projected into the darkness. Everyone could see it clearly. At the border of the dark continent's abyss, Eternal Lodging was waiting excitedly and anxiously for the void-splitting fire to bloom. Then, a black shadow instantly appeared. It pulled out his soul and turned him into a walking corpse. Then, under the evil technique, the soul of the black shadow was torn out of its body and poured into Eternal Lodging's body. Then, the void-splitting fire bloomed. Although the scene was somewhat fragmented, the entire process of Eternal Lodging being possessed could still be seen. Then, two terrifying hands made of light drilled into Eternal Lodging's body and tore it apart. Instantly, a ray of light from the soul was pulled out of his body. This ray of light from the soul was frantically twisting, struggling, and screaming. It was a very handsome, yet very thin face. That's right, this was Wentian, but it wasn't completely Wentian. It should be said that this was the Wentian of the primal chaos world and not the Wentian who was reborn by the people of Earth. The Wentian of the primal chaos world was a person whose legs were paralyzed. Therefore, he was very thin and dark. After he merged with the Wentian of Earth, he seemed to be more normal. But after another split, he returned to his scrawny, dark, and terrifying appearance. Yang Dingtian stepped forward and said, "You are the Wentian of the evil ways?" Wentian's face twisted as he said, "So what if I am? My soul is wrapped in evil spirit energy. Although it is only a second-grade evil spirit, it is undying and indestructible. You can't kill me, you can't kill me." As expected, the two incomparably powerful spirit priests retreated. Then, everything around him returned to normal. "President, we are already the strongest spirit priests in the world. We can easily enter his brain and tear his soul out of his body. The spirit priest of the speechless race said. However, his soul is protected by an extremely evil and powerful energy. We can't completely extract his soul, and we can't kill him. Su Yan nodded. Yang Dingtian had already told him enough about the evil spirit energy. He completely knew how powerful it was. Yang Dingtian said, Sir Su Yan, there are 2 ways to kill eternal lodging Wentian. Su Yan said, Please speak. Yang Dingtian said, The first way is to completely suppress his Xianqi, making him unable to release the void-splitting fire. Then throw him into the abyss. That way, he should be reduced to ashes. Su Yan nodded. Yang Dingtian said, The second way is to directly throw him into the dark matter. The dark matter will quickly devour him and turn him into a strange mixture. Eternal Lodging Wentian's expression changed drastically. Too vicious. Eternal Lodging Wentian immediately screamed. Yang Dingtian, let me go, let me go. I'm useful. I'm a very, very important hostage. I'm useful. Yang Dingtian shook his head and said, After your failure in the Little Western Paradise, you are useless to the Demon King Wentian. The most valuable thing you have right now is your spatial rending flame. Su Yan said, What are the pros and cons of these 2 methods? Yang Dingtian said, The first method is very likely that the void-splitting fire will take the initiative to protect its master, so it still can't kill him. However, it is possible to refine the void-splitting fire. After all, this is one of the top 3 heaven and earth Xian flames. As for the second method, it can definitely destroy Wentian's soul and body. However, the evil spirit energy and the dark matter will form a new mixture. This kind of substance is completely unknown to us. The unknown means that it is terrifying. Su Yan nodded, closed his eyes, and said, Since that is the case, we will use the first method to kill Eternal Lodging Wentian. Yang Dingtian bowed and said, Yes. The first method was to suppress Eternal Lodging Wentian's Xianqi, throw it into the abyss, and reduce him to ashes. If he could refine another space-cracking flame, that would be the best outcome. Chapter 1067. There were 2 ways to execute Yongxi at the border of the abyss. The first was to wait for the Little Western Paradise's dark crack to bloom. However, there was still at least a month's time. Yang Dingtian could not wait that long. Moreover, there was a saying that went, A long night is fraught with dreams. The second was to go directly to the dark world, where there was a huge abyss border. Of course, he could also go to the first Dark Realms abyss border. Of course, going to the first Dark Realms abyss border was safer. He could directly return to the human countries and go to the northern end of the world of ice and snow. Directly using the void fire to create a dark door to enter the Death Continent's dark world was risky because he did not know where he would be teleported to. However, the void fire was born at the dark world's abyss border. Yang Dingtian was worried that the first Dark Realms abyss border's energy level was not high enough to refine the void fire. After thinking and hesitating for a moment, Yang Dingtian decided to use the dark door created by the void fire to enter the dark world. Fire Dance did not know martial arts, and could not enter the dark world. Thus, Yang Dingtian, the 4 clan leaders, and President Su Yan escorted Yongxi to the abyss border to be executed. Yang Dingtian released the void fire. Immediately, the black and white flames began to fuse and become transparent flames. Yang Dingtian continued to inject celestial qi to the extreme. Suddenly, the void fire became bigger and bigger. Finally, the center of the void fire became a dark hole. This hole led directly to the dark world. Without a word, Yao Li carried Yongxi and jumped into the dark world through the dark door. Yao Nu too, the 4 clan leaders, and President Su Yan also jumped into the dark world. In the end, Yang Dingtian jumped in. Soon, the 6 of them appeared in the dark world. Their luck was not bad. It was about 10,000 times the gravity. Although it was not comfortable, with Yang Dingtian's cultivation, he could still withstand it. On the other hand, Yongxi's cultivation was suppressed, so he was under this terrifying gravity. His body suddenly collapsed and then exploded, turning into ashes. Then, the evil energy quickly repaired his body. However, as soon as a little bit of weight appeared, it immediately shattered into pieces. Yang Dingtian led the group and flew towards the border of the abyss in the west. This place was already very far from the border of the abyss, probably more than tens of thousands of kilometers away. As the gravity got lower and lower, everyone's speed got faster and faster. In the end, he reached a critical point where he could endure the eternal sacrifice. Finally, he was no longer smashed to pieces. However, the scene was even more terrifying. His entire body suddenly caved in, directly becoming shorter by more than half. The 6 of them flew for 2 days and 2 nights before they finally arrived at the border of the dark world. Finally, there was almost no high gravity here. In front of him was the boundless border of the abyss. The mysterious, dazzling, and terrifying border of the abyss. From the looks of it, it was completely a ball of light of nothingness that was constantly moving. At first glance, it looked like a galaxy. The border of the abyss was beautiful and enchanting. However, it was a symbol of death. It continued to devour the dark domain in front of it, turning it into a dark world of death. The abyssal border of the dark realm devoured the low-level dark realm. The lowest level of dark realm was the first dark realm. It was slowly but unceasingly devouring the torn space. It was as if the entire world was dying, completely unstoppable. The president of the High Priest Association, Su Yen, looked at the mysterious and beautiful border of the abyss. This should be the most powerful and terrifying place in this world. It could devour the entire chaotic continent. Then, it should be enough to destroy the evil spirits. Sir Yang Dingtian, the destruction of this world is unstoppable, Su Yen said, his tone revealing a sense of pessimism. Su Yen had always been like this. The silent race was naturally pessimistic. The first to be devoured and destroyed will be the torn space. Once the torn space is destroyed, the Little Western Paradise will completely lose its energy balance, and will be destroyed instantly. After the Little Western Paradise is destroyed, it will be the Vitality Continent's turn, Su Yen said slowly. When these words came out, Yao Li and Yao Nu Tu's expressions changed drastically. It was not that they had never heard of this theory. However, it sounded as if the people on Earth had heard of the end of the world in 2012. However, the facts now completely proved this point. Even President Su Yen, one of the founders of the Little Western Paradise civilization, said so. Then it was definitely not wrong. Therefore, Yongshi's strategy was correct. Enter the human countries, seize a base, and prepare for the destruction of the Little Western Paradise. Yang Dingtian. Sir Su Yen, how long do you think it will take for the torn space to be destroyed? Su Yen said. Sir Yang Dingtian, you should have seen that the torn space and the dark matter have an intersection, right? Yang Dingtian. Yes, Su Yen said. The dark matter seems bad. But in fact, it is protecting the torn space and the human countries. The dark matter is devouring and compressing the torn space, and the border of the abyss is doing the same. In the end, the two have entered a kind of balance. Therefore, the torn space has always been in a relatively stable state. When these words came out, Yang Dingtian was really shocked and speechless. He had never heard of this theory before. Is this your research topic? Yang Dingtian asked. Yes, Su Yen said. He was the president, so what he studied was the most noble topic, how to save this world. Su Yen said. However, the torn space has been expanding, so it is breaking this balance. Once it expands to a certain critical value, the entire balance will instantly collapse, and the torn space will be completely destroyed. Then, the Little Western Paradise will be destroyed and become the next torn space. Demon Rage 2's expression changed drastically. If the Little Western Paradise was destined to be destroyed, then what was the point of establishing the Silver Dragon Empire? Yang Dingtian looked at Demon Rage 2 and said, Sir Demon Rage, this is the problem of the entire chaotic world civilization, so the human countries will definitely face it together with you. After all, according to our plan, my son will become the emperor of the Silver Dragon Empire. Suyen said. To save the entire Silver Dragon civilization, we indeed need a unified will and strategy. Therefore, it is time for the Little Western Paradise to be unified. Sir Yang Dingtian, although you had no choice but to negotiate with Sir Demon Rage, it is very in line with the Silver Dragon Temple's strategy. As soon as these words were said, the four patriarchs present had indeed engraved a concept in their hearts. In order to save the Silver Dragon civilization and the entire Demon Fox race, the Little Western Paradise indeed needed to be unified into an empire. Yang Dingtian said. Sir Suyen, how long do you think it will be before the torn space? Suyen said. Sir Yang Dingtian, as you know, we don't have spatial techniques and can't enter the torn space. Therefore, we can only rely on the energy density at the junction of the torn space and the Little Western Paradise to calculate the expansion level of the torn space. This is not very accurate. Therefore, when the time comes, we may need you to explore the torn space and give us the most accurate and complete data. Yang Dingtian said. No problem. Suyen said. According to our rough estimate, the torn space is about 5,000 years away from destruction. At that time, the Little Western Paradise will be destroyed. And the junction of the torn space and the human countries will probably be torn apart as well. Therefore, this is a small annihilation. Yang Dingtian's eyes trembled. That meant that the demon realm, the yin-yang mirror, and even parts of the world of ice and snow would be torn apart. The destruction of this world was indeed progressive. The formation of the yin-yang mirror and the demon realm was not without reason. The Empire of Darkness only accelerated the destruction of these continents, but the reason was still because they bordered the torn space. Yao Li said. Then, does that mean that the Little Western Paradise will be destroyed in 5,000 years or so? And the human countries are also destined to be destroyed, just a little longer. Suyen nodded and said. That's right. Yao Li's entire aura seemed to have completely collapsed. He hissed. If the entire chaos world is destined to be destroyed, then what's the point of fighting? Yang Dingtian said. Of course it's meaningful, Sir Yao Li. The chaos world may be destroyed. But the civilization of the chaos world will not be destroyed. What we need to do is to continuously evolve and sublimate before the entire world is destroyed. In the end, if we can jump out of the chaos world, our civilization will be able to obtain eternal life. Suyen nodded and said. Sir Yang Dingtian is right. If our intelligence reaches a certain level, we may be able to change the nature of our energy and truly prevent the world from being destroyed. Of course, I've repeatedly researched this direction and found that it shouldn't work. Because time seems to be irreversible. Then Suyen said, Now, Sir Yang Dingtian already has the greater space technique. This is the key to saving the chaos world. So Sir Yang Dingtian is the key to saving the chaos world. Greater space technique. Everyone was shocked, including Yongxi. Yang Dingtian actually knew the greater space technique. Then, was he destined to be the so-called child of destiny? Completely undefeatable? Suyen said. So, next, the Silver Dragon Temple will organize a spiritual theory system to unify the thoughts of the entire Little Western Paradise. The spiritual unification will be left to the Silver Dragon Temple. And the actual unification will be left to everyone here. Yao Nu bowed and said, It is my duty. Suyen said, All right, let's begin the execution. Execute Yongxi Wentian? Yes, Yang Dingtian said. A few saints stepped forward and completely sealed Yongxi's profound veins. Then, with a fierce attack, he was instantly smashed to pieces. Then, the evil spirit energy would do its best to revive his body, and would not be able to do anything else. Yang Dingtian raised Yongxi Wentian's light energy body. No, I beg you, Yang Dingtian, I swear loyalty to you, I swear loyalty to you, no, ah. A mournful roar sounded. Yang Dingtian suddenly threw Yongxi Wentian into the abyss that could swallow the entire world. Chapter 1068. Yongxi immediately let out an incomparably miserable howl. It was a howl filled with incomparable unwillingness. Then, only to see that his soul, which was wrapped by the evil spirit, directly melted into the abyss border. The completely invincible, undying evil spirit was like ice under the scorching sun, completely melted here. Boom! Then, there was a sound and a tremor. Yongxi Wentian's energy sea directly exploded. However, before the energy could explode, it directly melted away. Then, it was the Xian veins and the heart that were protected by the evil spirit. Finally, it was the head that was protected by the evil spirit. The incomparably powerful, undying evil spirit energy, in the energy of the abyss border, was like metal in high-temperature magma, instantly melted away and disappeared. Yongxi's body, along with Wentian's soul, completely died and disappeared from this world. The last thing to melt was Yongxi's head. His soul, as if he didn't dare to believe that he was really dead. He, who had the evil spirit energy, was really dead. After Yongxi Wentian died, Yang Dingtian still stood quietly at the edge of the abyss border, hoping that the abyss border could refine a new void crack fire. The four patriarchs and President Su Yan were also waiting quietly. As expected, in the huge abyss border, countless tiny lights began to gradually condense, and condense. Finally, they condensed into a black and white flame. The black and white flames began to condense into a transparent void crack fire. Clan leader Gna, Monster Wrath 2, and Monster Giant 2 were all eager to take action against this void-rending flame. This was because whoever controlled the void-rending fire would control Mi Zhu's powerful Dark Wanderer force. Yang Dingtian said directly. Logically speaking, I already have the void crack fire, so this void crack fire should be given away. However, with the void crack fire, not only can I control the Dark Wanderer power, but I can also freely enter and exit the human countries and Little Western Paradise. Currently, the human countries are far weaker than the Little Western Paradise. I can't let the human countries be in danger forever. The moment he said this, everyone understood. Yang Dingtian didn't want the four patriarchs to possess this void-rending flame. Yang Dingtian said, Patriarch Su Yan, please devour this void fire. This way, you can control the exiles of the Silver Dragon Temple and research the border of the abyss. President Su Yan of Mount Buzhou High Priest Association shook his head and said, Mr. Yang Dingtian, you should keep it for yourself. Yang Dingtian replied, But I already have a void-rending flame. President Su Yan said, Your cultivation is very close to the 20th level. If you devour this new spatial rending fire, you might be able to break through. Yang Dingtian was stunned, then he bowed and said, Thank you, President Su Yan. I won't stand on ceremony. Yang Dingtian took a step forward and began to inject his divine sense and profound qi into the void-splitting flame. Instantly, the void-splitting flame stuck its head out and made contact with Yang Dingtian's divine sense and profound qi. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but feel a little excited. If he devoured this void-splitting flame, would he be able to break through to the saint level? After the void-splitting flame communicated with Yang Dingtian's divine sense and profound qi, it actually retreated. That's right, the void-splitting flame retreated. It refused to be devoured by Yang Dingtian. The reason was simple. It sensed another void-splitting flame in Yang Dingtian's body, so it refused to enter Yang Dingtian's sea of qi. Perhaps it felt that as a second void-splitting flame, there was no place for it to stay in his body, and there was no room for it to develop. Immediately after, Yang Dingtian could clearly feel that the void-splitting flame in his qi vessel had suddenly flared up as though it had turned ferocious. Obviously, the void-splitting flame in his sea of qi would absolutely refuse to let a new void-splitting flame in. If it really entered, the two void-splitting flames would probably fight each other. This situation, Yang Dingtian really didn't expect it. He was really speechless. The two void-splitting flames actually strongly rejected each other. This time, there was really no other way. Yang Dingtian said helplessly, President Su Yan, Sir, I can't devour it. Then you can take it back to study. Su Yan smiled and nodded, reaching out his hand and gently summoning. Immediately, the void-rending flame flew over and floated above his palm. Su Yan sucked lightly. Immediately, the void-splitting flame turned into thousands of wisps and entered Su Yan's body. Then, everything was silent. There was no change. Su Yan's cultivation also didn't have any breakthrough. Because, at his cultivation level, devouring a void-splitting flame was no longer enough to let his cultivation have a breakthrough. Alright, we've successfully killed Yongxi Wentian. Everyone, you can go back, Su Yan said. Yang Dingtian looked at the abyss border that was still mysterious and beautiful. Yongxi Wentian already disappeared without a trace here, becoming a part of the abyss border. He was indeed considered a very powerful boss. Now, he was finally eliminated relatively smoothly. Of course, even if he didn't die, he also could not stir up trouble anymore. However, it was better for him to be dead than not dead. One of Yang Dingtian's great troubles was finally resolved. Now, even if the evil ways entered the Little Western Paradise, it was also completely a dead end. Here at the human country's gates, he already had no worries at all. Furthermore, all of the saint-level powerhouses could be transferred back. Yang Dingtian led everyone to the exit of the Dark World, which was the door of darkness in the Great Hall of Heads. Using the void-splitting flame to open the door of darkness, the group of people came out of the Dark World and entered inside the Great Hall of Heads. Sure enough, as expected, inside the Great Hall of Heads currently, more than a dozen Demon Fox clan experts were sitting neatly. Among them, there were almost 10 saint-level powerhouses. The rest were all half-saint-level powerhouses. This was almost the majority of the Silver Palace Martial Arts Hall's experts. As expected, Yongxi had sent them here. Once the human country's gates opened, the Demon Fox clan's experts would surge out and destroy all of Yang Dingtian's saint-level powerhouses. Then, they would take the human country's gates away. Seeing people come out of the door of darkness, the Silver Palace's experts were shocked. Then, seeing Demon Rage too, they immediately let down their guard. The Silver Palace Martial Arts Hall greets the kings. The saint-level leader of the Silver Palace took the lead and bowed. The Silver Palace's experts were all gathered in the Silver Palace Martial Arts Hall. They swore to be forever loyal to the chairman. Of course, they were loyal to the position of chairman, not to anyone else. Therefore, when Yao Qi was alive, they were loyal to her. Even if Yao Qi wanted them to imprison Yongxi, they would obey. After Yao Qi died, Yongxi became the acting chairman. The Silver Palace Temple was completely loyal to Yongxi Wentian. Their loyalty was the same as the Silver Dragon Temple's punishers. They were only loyal to the Silver Dragon Judge. The punishers in the border castle didn't care who the Silver Dragon Judge was, even if he was their father's killer. As long as he was the Silver Dragon Judge, they would obey his orders. Demon Rage 2 stepped forward and said, "Martial Arts Hall's experts, your mission is over. Go back." The saint-level leader of the Silver Palace Martial Arts Hall said, "Without the chairman's orders, our mission will never be over." Demon Rage 2 said, "Chairman Yongxi has been possessed by the human Wentian. He killed Chairman Yao Qi. The Silver Dragon Temple has ordered his arrest. The Joint Council has already impeached him. The Silver Dragon Judge has escorted Chairman Yongxi into Buzhou Mountain. He has identified his true body and confirmed that he has been possessed by the human Wentian. He is the murderer of Yao Qi. Therefore, he has already been executed." As Demon Rage 2 spoke, he took out a document. This was the highest order of the Joint Council. The content was to impeach Chairman Yongxi. It was stamped with the personal seals of the 8 clan leaders and the Joint Council's public seal. Then, it showed a stack of recording jades. This included the scenes of Yongxi being impeached, the scenes of Yongxi's true identity being revealed, the scenes of Yongxi admitting to the murder, and the scenes of Yongxi being executed. Every piece of evidence was very strict and authoritative. After the leader of the Silver Palace Martial Arts Hall read it, he passed it down. Then, the saint-level leader of the Silver Palace said, "Chairman Yongxi has stepped down and been executed. Our mission is temporarily suspended." "Understood," Demon Rage 2 said. the leader of the Silver Palace martial artists, said. However, we will still occupy this skull hall, but we will not do anything. We will ask the new chairman to give us a new order. Only then will we stop our mission or start a new one. Sure enough, it was very strict. After Yong Xuantian's death, this group of Silver Palace martial artists' mission was temporarily suspended and not completely suspended. They would only obey the new chairman's orders. Demon Rage 2 said, Don't worry. The new chairman will give you a new order soon. Yes. The leader of the Silver Palace martial artists bowed again and sat down. He closed his eyes and entered a state of temporary suspension. During this process, they would not do anything. They would wait for the new chairman's orders. The 4 clan heads, President Su Yan, Yang Dingtian, and the others left the Skull Hall and entered Little Western Paradise. They first sent President Su Yan back to Mount Buzhou. Yang Dingtian officially handed over the position of Silver Dragon Judge to President Su Yan. He also handed over the mask, robe, and Mount Buzhou token. He had originally thought that President Su Yan would solemnly store these things away and place them in the most important place. In the end, President Su Yan still casually handed them to Fire Dance. He then greeted Yang Dingtian and returned to his stone room to continue his meditation. Yang Dingtian bowed to Fire Dance again. Thank you, Madam Fire Dance. Fire Dance smiled and said, All right, go about your business. I still have a novel to read. Then she also went back to her stone room. The entire High Priest Association fell into an extremely empty state. Yang Dingtian left Mount Buzhou and entered Little Western Paradise. Then, his body began to change and he became Jiang Shang of the Speechless Clan. Jiang Shang of the Speechless Clan was officially the spiritual leader of Little Western Paradise. He could be considered the chairman's teacher. Yang Dingtian returned to Yingdu to meet Jia and her son and enjoyed the joy of a family reunion. However, the moment Demon Rage 2 saw Yang Dingtian, he said in a low voice, Yang Dingtian, actually, the great sage can totally act as the acting chairman. It might be better for you to be the acting chairman. Yang Dingtian could not help but be shocked. Chapter 1069. There was a saying that one's mouth said no, but the body was very obedient. Jia was a classic example of this. Her mouth kept saying no, but her body was very obedient and even cooperated. All of her rationality was completely destroyed. In the entire courtyard, fiery emotions seemed to be flowing everywhere. The red leaves on the ground were floating all over the sky. Just like that, no one knew how much time had passed. In the end, he lay limp on the stone table, enjoying the enchanting silence. When he opened his eyes again, he realized that the sky was about to turn dark. Jia hurriedly got up from Yang Dingtian's body. Then, she tidied her clothes and pulled her skirt up again. Damn you! She pinched Yang Dingtian hard, then quickly ran into the house to take a bath. You're over there. Don't follow me, she said as she ran. Yang Dingtian went to the room on the other side. There, the fox maidservants with red faces had been waiting for a long time. The comfortable hot spring flowed in the white jade-like bath. Yang Dingtian lay down comfortably. Several fox maidservants came forward to bathe Yang Dingtian. Then, they changed into comfortable clothes. When everything was ready, the sky was completely dark. The maidservants led Yang Dingtian to a palace. It was very familiar to Yang Dingtian. When he was under house arrest in the Silver Palace, he lived here. Jia, who was wearing a pink dress, and Yao Yang, who was wearing a snow-white robe, were already waiting at the table. There were many delicacies on the table. Every one of them was very exquisite. Of course, the red cake was an exception. That plate of red cake was messed up beyond recognition. When his precious son saw Yang Dingtian come in, he pouted and complained. Daddy, you're so slow. I'm starving. As he spoke, his big eyes were still staring at the delicious food on the table. Yang Dingtian sat down and said, Let's eat. The little guy's chopsticks immediately attacked. He picked up the best piece of snowflake beast meat and stuffed it into his mouth. Jia picked up the red wine and filled Yang Dingtian's cup before pouring a full one for herself. Then, he picked up another bottle of red wine and filled it to the brim. However, this little guy had already completely immersed himself in the dishes on the table. He didn't care about anything else at all. He ate until his face was covered in oil. Yang Dingtian raised his glass of red wine and clinked it with Jia's before downing it in one gulp. The taste was very good. It wasn't bitter, but it wasn't sour either. In short, it definitely wasn't delicious, but it had a very fragrant taste that was very deep and distant. "Why didn't father-in-law come?" Yang Dingtian asked. Jia said, "The 9 tribes are having a banquet. Isn't it good for the 3 of us to have a meal together?" "Sure." Yang Dingtian gazed at Jia's snow-white, jade-like face. The blush on her cheeks and the charm in her beautiful eyes had yet to fade. After that, the 2 of them continued to drink. Yang Dingtian continued to gorge himself, gulping down wine and eating meat. The 3 of them didn't need to speak, but a warm and happy feeling flowed in their hearts. Suddenly, Jia's expression became annoyed. Because she finally found the root of Yao Yang's pickiness. These 2 were indeed father and son. Even the things they liked to eat were exactly the same. They didn't even touch most of the vegetables. They just liked to eat meat. Moreover, it had to be a mixture of fat and lean. It would be best if it had bones and was chewy. Jia saw the father and son picking at the food on the plate with their chopsticks, eating with their mouths and staring at the food. They really looked exactly the same. "Yao Yang, why are you only eating meat and not vegetables? You won't grow up like this," Jia said coldly. The little guy didn't even raise his head. "Daddy is like this too. You're an adult, but you don't care. Why do you care about a kid like me?" "Yang Dingtian." Jia glared at Yang Dingtian. "Can't you set a good example for your son?" Yang Dingtian was stunned. Then, he drank the red wine in big gulps. He picked up a bunch of vegetables and stuffed them into his mouth, chewed a few times, and swallowed them directly. The little guy Yao Yang said, "Mommy, since Daddy likes to eat vegetables so much, I won't fight with him. Let's give them all to him." Yang Dingtian was speechless. This son was different from the other sons. Yan Yi was gentle and elegant. Yan Li was arrogant and domineering. Little Ah Cho liked to act cute all day long. He was a little muddle-headed. This Yao Yang in front of him was mischievous and clever. He was the most similar to Yang Dingtian when he was young. Jia didn't reason with her son. She went forward and pinched the little guy's oily little face with her jade-like hands. She opened his little mouth and forced every vegetable into his mouth. Instantly, the little guy's face became bitter. After he finished eating, Jia kissed his little mouth fiercely and said, "Good boy." A table full of dishes was actually eaten clean by the family of 3. Of course, most of them were eaten by Yang Dingtian. In the end, no one touched the remaining pile of red cakes. Jia looked at Yang Dingtian and then looked at Yao Yang. "I'm full. I'm going to read." The little guy slipped off the chair and turned to run. Jia grabbed his ear and picked up a piece of red cake. She said, "Open your mouth." The little guy helplessly opened his mouth and stuffed a piece of red cake into it. He said, "I'll play after I finish eating. I don't like Mommy anymore. Daddy, take me away so that Mommy won't force me to eat things I don't like every day." The little guy chewed with his small mouth and swallowed. He said, "Madam Jia, can I go and play now?" Jia didn't mind her son calling her name. "Yes, Mr. Yao Yang. Do you remember when to come back?" Jia said. "I know." The little guy ran away in the blink of an eye. When he ran to the door, he turned to Yang Dingtian. "Daddy, can you sleep with me tonight?" "Of course." "Good boy," Yang Dingtian said. Then, the little guy ran away without leaving a trace. "Where is the little guy going to play?" Yang Dingtian asked. Jia said, "In name, he's going to read. In fact, he's going to play with little girls." Yang Dingtian was stunned. Jia said, "You're such a playboy. He's really learned from you." Yang Dingtian was speechless. "That can't be." This little guy is only 3 years old. Among his sons, both Yang Yi and Yang Li didn't like to play with little girls. In the end, Yao Yang was just like himself when he was young. He liked to play with girls. He really didn't expect this. If the upper beam is not straight, the lower beam will be crooked, Jia said. Then, she pushed a pile of red cakes in front of Yang Dingtian and said, "Finish them." Yang Dingtian's expression turned bitter as he said, "But I am already full." Jia said, "I made these myself. Do you want to eat them?" Then, Yang Dingtian had no choice but to painfully eat the red cakes one bite at a time. However, when he ate the last piece, he suddenly grabbed Jia, pinched her little mouth open, and forced the red cake in his mouth into her mouth. Jia kept struggling, but she was no longer Yang Dingtian's opponent. She could only let Yang Dingtian feed her. "Yang Dingtian, you're so disgusting." After swallowing it, Jia's face was full of disgust. He pulled her to sit on his lap and gently stroked her neck. He kissed her eyes, nose, and then kissed all the red cakes on the corner of her mouth. In the end, the aroused Jia couldn't hold back anymore. She opened her little mouth and kissed Yang Dingtian deeply. The two of them kissed deeply and entangled. "Husband, how's my sister?" Jia snuggled in Yang Dingtian's arms and asked softly. "Yes, she's fine," Yang Dingtian said. "Do you think it's okay for me to bring the baby to live in Cloud Sky City for a while?" Jia whispered. Yang Dingtian was startled. Then he said, "Okay, after the human countries are settled, you and the baby can not only live in the human countries. Yang Yi and Yao Rao can also live in the Little Western Paradise." "Yes," Jia said. "Are you leaving tomorrow?" "Yes," Yang Dingtian said. "But I'll be back soon." "I'll be back with Chairman Nehru." "Yes," Jia said. "In the future, don't leave for so long." It's really hard for me." "Why, is your desire so strong?" Yang Dingtian laughed. Jia said unhappily, "Don't spoil the fun. I'm talking about the psychological side. Especially when I see the baby and you're not by my side, the loneliness is really indescribable." Yang Dingtian hugged her tightly and said, "I know, I'm sorry." At about 10 o'clock on Earth, the little guy Yao Yang came back from the library. Then, the family of 3 got on the big bed. When the little guy was 2 years old, he slept on his own small bed. Now that he could sleep with his parents, he was very excited and kept rolling and jumping on the bed. "Daddy, tell me a story, tell me a story. I won't sleep tonight, I want to listen to stories until dawn," the little guy announced loudly. Then, less than 15 minutes later, the little guy curled up in Yang Dingtian's arms and fell asleep. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but wonder if his story was that bad. Moreover, this little guy was already 3 years old, but he was still hugging his head when he slept, just like a baby. The next morning, Yang Dingtian left Indu and returned to the human countries. When he left, the little guy was still sleeping soundly. While sleeping, he clicked his tongue. He was so cute that Yang Dingtian couldn't take his eyes off him. He really wanted to stay and accompany him. It was said that home was the place where the fighting spirit of any hero dissipated. Yang Dingtian completely understood this saying. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.